Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, J Mels24, Yuyan Mento, M Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, The Real Gabster, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
And I'll get my stuff together.
Well, we'll take it day by day. We'll see how it goes. Hello, Nathan.
Hello.
Hello.
So there's a
Hello.
schedule
Radio
change now,
check.
eh? Hello?
Yeah, only a little bit,
We
just
got you.
to avoid conflict with Quantum Eraser on a Tuesday, and a whole bunch of people. There's no point even listening. There's loads of people who go live on a Friday night. So for that reason, it's now no longer going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. No, I didn't have a Saturday. It doesn't matter what the old schedule was. The new schedule just won't be an Uncut and After Show on the second channel on a Tuesday or on a Friday. They'll be on Saturday and Sunday, basically.
Right.
I'm also tempted to move up the schedule by an hour, because when it's admittedly only twice weekly and it's only one show, the Saturday show, if I stick to the regular time of 9 PM UK, then on a Saturday bi-weekly, it clashes with Ballbusters after an hour or two, depending on the time. I'm also
It's
tempted.
about time you're doing that.
Well, I'm
It
tempted
used
to,
to drive me crazy, the clashing.
okay, well, should I move up the after show by an hour? So instead of 9 PM UK, it's 10 PM UK.
That's better.
You think it's better later?
Correct. So we can get both of them.
Well,
Okay.
since you already
The
made a
mo-
schedule change, maybe you should sit on it a week or two and then before you make another announcement, right?
I'm asking. I'm just getting people's opinions at this point. At this point, I've already made the schedule change because I'm sick of it conflicting. But while it won't conflict if Ballbusters was 2 hours, if we start at 7 on a Saturday and then 2 hours later we finish, then that would be great, because then at 9, the Uncut and After Show starts. But typically we don't just do 2 hours on Ballbusters, do we? So it's going to overlap. So I think, well, I don't mind if it overlaps by half an hour, say. If we did a 3.5 hour Ballbusters, which isn't that uncommon, then, you know, there'll be half an hour overlap. That's fine. So I'm tempted, if nothing else, to just bump it up the schedule. But I like to keep a consistent time. That's the other thing that kind of bugs me. So if I'm going to change it, I want to change all of them so that it's just 10 PM UK time on the second channel. Not 9 PM UK time, unless it's bi-weekly on a Saturday. Then it's going to be 10 or 11 PM, depending on how long I think the show will last. That doesn't sound quite so good.
No, do it the way you said. Bump it up an hour and that's it.
Yeah, I got it. I got your opinion on it. I will ask the audience.
I am the audience.
Good evening, Nathan.
Good morning for me, or good afternoon for wherever you may be. Good evening. Hello.
Oh, I think it's about 11 o'clock at night here.
News time.
Yeah, hanging upside down here in Australia, 10 to 11 at night.
Hanging upside down. What are you doing? Gravity boots?
Yeah, it's hard to swallow when you eat too.
Hard to swallow what, sorry?
When I'm eating, it's, Bit hard to swallow upside down here.
If you say so. I don't assume you're antipode from my position, though.
Well, we could be
Well,
on the
even
top.
if
Who says that we're on the bottom?
Regardless, you're roughly antipode from my location, right? And if you're in Oz, you're roughly antipodal on a ball model from me. Doesn't matter about the bottom.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but we're not. That might be the case in the model, but it's not the case in reality, is it?
Definitely not.
that's not the case in the model either. The model has you antipode on a flat plane.
When referencing the star positions with the flat plane below, are you looking at the ephemeris and the celestial sphere model? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, that's the only model that exists. What model are you talking about then? You said model.
That's something I wasn't hoping to be defending right at this point in the discussion. I've got to be honest, John. I don't have one to present.
I've started it off. No, I didn't mean to do that. I was just having a laugh.
That's perfectly legit. And as is John's point, right? I mean, in this position, although playing devil's advocate, what model am I talking about? Well, I haven't got one to present. Maybe a baller could help me out.
Yeah, they're gonna need to apply some equations to that. That's not really a model, though, is it?
Well, if I was to, I did rack my brains for a few seconds when you asked. I'm like, well, all I'm going to do is affirm your point. If I show you me standing at the center of a sphere Earth on the equatorial plane with the celestial sphere projected out beyond the globe Earth that's not being used, that's a bit of a stretch for me to say that's the model I'm referring to. Because presumably the answer, if I did, would be, well, that's exactly what you, or in reply, I said when you pointed out that, no, you're going to be doing it if antipodal of two flat plane systems that map the stars above them, sandwiched one on top of the other, antipodal. That's the only way you can assert it, right? And you'd be right.
Yeah, it's a big shit sandwich, I guess, a good way to describe it.
Well, if you want a globe model, it depends on who you talk to, because some say it's round, some say it's pear-shaped, some say it's bulging in the middle. Who knows?
And I say I'd like to see any model that they say they have.
There's one on
Well,
the
yeah,
teacher's desk.
there's a mathematical derivative, right, of the celestial sphere where you take the GP points directly underneath each one of those stars and you ascribe land masses to it. There's that, and that's what we call the globe. But that's just a mathematical derivative. That's not actually the model.
Exactly. When that's the point when QE asks, let's see this model. Now, in certain instances, they can show you certain graphs or certain equations or certain orthographic diagrams, but that isn't the model, right? That's a mathematical derivation of their original claim that Earth's a sphere. Well, let's see the all-encompassing model working. Well, there isn't. There's just little extrapolations here, there, and there. And they imply that by putting all of these little diagrams and graphs and models, as they call them, on the wall all at once, you're like, well, there's the sphere model. You're like, no, it isn't. That's not a working model. That's lots of different things that often have contradictions within their own separate claims that you say make up the world as a sphere by way of mathematical extrapolation.
The ever elusive sphere model. That's what I call it.
I only say I'm hanging on the bottom of the sphere because when I was a kid, when I was young, it always confused me how I could be hanging upside down.
I think it's nuts that in the education system for you could take that impression away, because although from a Western world point of view, you've always got it depicted that way, therefore, from our point of view, you are hanging at the bottom of the sphere. But when I think of an Australian, or when I think back to how I was educated about the ball, yes, I can understand me saying I don't understand how an Australian would be hanging off the bottom antipode from my position if I was that smart when I was taught this stuff, which I wasn't. But I'm saying, for you in Oz, when you're being taught the ball model, should it not be the case that, no, we here in Australia, we're at the top, those crazy English, they're hanging off the bottom antipode from where we are?
You're
No,
right.
It shouldn't
we
be
were
taught
just
either
flat out
way.
told we're at the bottom. We're on the land down under, and
Yeah.
yeah. And I was
Exactly.
always very confused about how that actually occurred when I was very young,
Exactly.
because
So
they never really gave us a good explanation except for gravity. But who the hell knows that in grade 1 or 2 or whatever grade you learn that in?
maybe it's the
Yeah,
lesser
but
of two
shouldn't
evils.
Nathan be the land down under?
Well, exactly for
For you
us,
guys?
for the Australian, we are the land down under. Exactly, because it's relative to your position at the top of the ball for every individual. Therefore, that's how it's taught. But even for the Australians, by the Australians, they're taught, and that's the perfect reference, by the way. You guys refer to yourselves as the land down under. So therefore, even from your own position, you're identifying yourself as hanging off the bottom of the ball. So from easy geographic reference, it's just for a world in its entirety, always have the top being the North Pole and the bottom being the South Pole, and then reference it from there. And then if anybody does get confused and asks any questions, there'll be less of them if it's the Australians asking rather than the Northern Hemisphere world, because they can all just reference Australia being the land down under, and there's a lot less of them to worry about then.
The question would be malformed, or the statement would be to say the land down under, because, like you said, it's relative to your position. So nobody is upside down on the ball, because down is relative to your position. So you can't say up.
But I can tell you that I was never taught that in school. I don't know what level they would teach that in, but that was never taught to us.
Because you're on the upswing in
me,
Australia,
in
right?
school.
You're in a new world. So in the new world, you've got this, when it's developing as a Western world society, part of the new narrative of heliocentrism. We're talking 200 or 300 years. So as an afterthought, you have to explain how somebody positionally on a flat world, expanding out in a southward direction, once discovered, fits into your ball paradigm. Well, from the person who's developing the explanation, they are going to be king of the castle in England, no doubt, explaining it, rather than explaining it from the position, relative or otherwise, of the guy in Australia. Therefore, I explain it to my people as the authority, as them in the land down under, not us being in the land down under comparatively from their position, which is relative. That's too complicated for your average common man. Keep it simple for everybody and just make Australia at the bottom. What's that? The Australians get confused when they get taught that. Yeah, that's okay. Just tell them it's relative.
Yeah.
How does the Australian compass work?
Same as ours.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Has he used?
Well, I don't know. It
has the
depends where you
gentleman-
are too. We've got where I grew up, there's an island called Magnetic Island, which actually Captain Cook found and sailed around, and it throws your compass off. It doesn't give you true north. It tells you north is out to one side, and true north is actually the center mountain in the island.
Right. How do you hold that compass in Australia?
One of the projections that I was given by Cammy Nodal, the late Bob Nodell's wife, was a quadrupole projection on an azimuthal equidistant north-centric projection. That's a bit of a mouthful, eh? But that used to be the logo for Flat Earth Debate. So if you look at the older shows where it's got two guys either side of the logo and then a whole bunch of actual people in a collage underneath, and then there's like a circle with FED written or Flat Earth Debate, the words themselves, inside it. But the map behind that, the circle itself, is an azimuthal north-centric globe projection of the quadrupole that we have alleged based on that particular projection. And in terms of, although it's not 100% accurate, the azimuthal equidistant projection isn't that bad. The Gleasons, or whatever you want to call it, by comparison, when you look at the use for the tracking of the sun, it's pretty accurate. I'm not saying that is our world. I'm not going to reify the map or claim it as a flat Earth map, but I'm telling you in terms of what it's used for, how well it works. And it does. Therefore, when you look at things like this, you go, okay, does it... Oh, just let Alvin in. Oh, that means we're late. Yeah, I'll stop waffling.
Yeah, go start the show, will you? Push your buttons.
Excuse me.
All 20.
I haven't got you on mute yet while you test your bravery.
Hello.
Hello.
How it could work instead of how it does work.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Arwin, 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Paul, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Let's get it on.
Hello.
Let's get it
Welcome.
on.
Welcome on this
Greetings.
beautiful day.
Greetings.
Good to have you all. Welcome, one and all. Is there any
Is it
evidence?
as beautiful weather over at you as it is over here, Nathan?
No, it's quite windy. I've got a
Yeah,
little story about that, actually. Maybe I
Oh,
should go into
okay.
that straight away. My daughter gets a quote-unquote science lesson on a Wednesday from me, while my younger daughter's at nursery. So it's nice and quiet and I can have her attention. Anyway, today, whilst getting ready to do one of the usual open the science box and get out an observation that definitely hasn't applied to the scientific method, she started off by saying that looking at lights in the sky is science, right, Dad? That's what she said to me. I'm like, no, it's not. Let's explain what the scientific method is. So while we're sat in the kitchen looking out the window, one of the things she saw, or as the lesson progressed, I asked her to look out the window and tell me something that was happening. And the thing that my eldest daughter observed was one of the trees is moving. Okay, so I'm like, okay, don't give me stick in the comments if this is loose and without controls, but I'm trying to explain it to a 6-year-old, bear in mind. So I explain, okay, that's your natural phenomena then. Now that obviously progressed through a reasonably concise and short lesson about how the scientific method works with a scientific prediction. So based on the fact that the weather isn't particularly great here, I had the use of a tree moving, and then admittedly the initial independent variable from my 6-year-old was man fishing. So okay, we're going to vary man fishing to see if it causes that tree to sway. Obviously we then got onto wind. But yeah, so that was that was my morning with the crappy weather that we've got, Arwin. But it was useful for detailing the scientific method for not the first time with my 6-year-old, I must admit. But there you go. That's a mild segue. I'm not trying to be a baby bore. But is there any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Just look outside. No, I'm not going to do that again.
But what we would see is various different pressure differentials taking place as gas pressure is introduced. Will those dynamic systems require containment in the first instance in order to have those gas pressure differentials, and wind is one of the byproducts of them? Well, that requires containment to begin with.
It all depends on how you're going to define containment.
A container walls to press on for the gas pressure.
Yeah, but what if they didn't necessarily need those walls and
Show me
still
that.
press?
Okay, well then if I don't want to have it
Look
as a supposition.
outside.
Hold on. I don't want to have it as a supposition from you. Show me that isn't the case, and then we'll go from there. Your time's up.
Well, I
You're not
only
going to
have
do
one
that.
example, and that's like walk outside. You just have to assume it, Nathan. There was always a violation of the second law of thermodynamics because the Earth is a globe.
In the model has a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. The world we live in does not. So to assert that the sky is a vacuum because in the heliocentric model, the black bit around the globe that you're never actually going to get to see is a sky vacuum 10 to the minus 17 Tor that you would be observing from the ground if you reified it. But in reality, we do have natural law. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere. We're not living in the sphere world model. It disobeys a natural law. Well,
Yeah, but
no.
But it's proven that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the globe.
The globe model.
Isn't that where we live?
No, that's a reification fallacy. The ground isn't the model. No.
Can you reify something that doesn't exist even as a concept?
Well, you'd have a job because you wouldn't know what you were reifying. So definitely not. I don't see where you were trying to go with that, but maybe there was something else more pertinent than me pulling apart its base flaw, which is to say you can't reify something unless you know what it is to reify it in the first instance.
Right. So when they assert that there is a globe model, they don't understand.
Clever. Oh, I like it. Oh, John, you're ace. That's smart, that is. Check out the after show, which has now changed schedule, and I won't go through the boring details, but if you remember, you can check out the conversation in the pre-show, which makes that incredibly clever. Yes, that's right. They haven't got a model to show you. Well, if they haven't got a model to show you, they've just got claimed to be pictures, paintings, and CGI. What is it that they actually reify? Because when you get into the nitty-gritty of it, they'll give you scraps and models and graphs and, you know, mathematical equations and derivations. They won't give you the actual model. That doesn't exist. There is no globe model. So what John's saying is, what are they actually reifying? Please share the show, by the way. Smash the share button. 50 people watching. Woo! Only been going 7 minutes. Happy days. Hope the number's better than yesterday.
Are we talking about globe?
Definitely. Probably on Thursday. I think that's how the schedule will go anyway, Neil. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Hang on.
It's
Back
over
to
there.
back to natural law. Isn't there a phrase, nature abhors a vacuum?
Yeah. The world we
And-
live in would have the gas we are breathing fill the availability of volume, i.e. a sky vacuum if there was one.
Nature might abhor a vacuum, but it doesn't mean that it can't still learn to live with it.
hang on. Hang on.
It's not
Do you-
a horrible ex-wife that's still got the keys to the house and you can't afford to get separate places. It's a law of nature as opposed to a tyrannical ex-Arwin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hang on, Arwin. So now to have a vacuum, wouldn't you still need a container?
Yeah.
Okay, so nature abhors a vacuum. So violation of natural law to have gas pressure next to a vacuum. But if you wanted a vacuum, you can have nature with second law of thermodynamics because you need a container just to have a vacuum.
Yeah, you can't have a vacuum without a container either. But the sky is claimed to be a vacuum and the gas pressure we are breathing is claimed to be containerless. That just doesn't work in reality. But that's the basis of the heliocentric worldview that a lot of the Western world hold currently. Hence, we have an evergreen subject here on Flat Earth Debate. Please share the show. Smash the share button now.
Right. So visually for the audience, you have just say two containers. One's got gas pressure in it. That's what we live in. And the other one's got no gas pressure or so little it's just minuscule. And they're right next to each other, two containers. But NASA says they leave this one container and go to the next container.
Okay, we're going to be doing yet another video by VoysovReason.
Yeah, I guess he trumped what I just said, but yeah, I guess so.
I don't get
This is last one, thank goodness.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I won't moan because you go to such efforts to provide me with these videos and I essentially do nothing except click on the link and then immediately respond to it without having watched it before, which is wonderful. But it'd be just nice to have somebody that was a bit less of a nobody with only 24.4 thousand subscribers. I mean, what a total nobody.
Hang on now. I told you from the beginning, this was Eli's request for part one. And I saw part one and I went and I saw the other part two and part three. So the guy to be in context, we have to do all three. I'm just the middleman here.
Right. I mean, yeah. But like I say, it'd be nice if we had somebody to cover that had a few more subs. On a slightly different note, I'm only 50 subscribers short of 25,000, which is enormous. I mean, that's fantastic. That's such a milestone. So, you know, share the word, spread the show. Let them know. Subscribe today, Nathan Oakley 1980. And obviously, we need to actually cover this guy because he might, if he were to ever respond, put a link to my video like I'm doing for him now. So go and let him know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The link's going by to this video. And if you're listening for whatever reason without video, which some people do, then this video is called Proving the Earth is Not Flat, Part 3, The Moon. So the link's going by in the live stream chat. If you want to just pop along now, maybe let him know. Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice comment so it doesn't get removed. Okay, Should we get into this?
This is part 3 in the series, Proving the Earth is Not Flat. The goal of this series is to show you how you can prove to yourself, with your own observations and experiments.
Yeah, like with part 1 and part 2, this guy doesn't know what science is, so don't lend any credence to his use of these scientific-sounding words. When he says experiment, it won't be.
That the Earth is a sphere. Today, we will look at the moon. It is important to understand a number of facts about the moon.
There we go. It's important you understand, and let's have a list of begging the question assumptions that we must understand before we move forward. What the hell's going on?
Sorry, that was me.
Well, go on then. Bloody hellfire.
I just wanted to say he's going to teach us how Earth is not is a sphere, but he says let's look at the moon. Why don't we talk about Earth being a sphere instead of looking at the moon?
I don't know, Neil. Anything else? Is that it?
So that I can show
I
you
just
how
found it funny.
Fair enough.
our observations of it can demonstrate that the
We've got German subtitles again. What the hell? Some funny business going on here. Check it out. I've got German subtitles again.
You're teaching foreign languages simultaneously?
I don't know, but I just... Good job on paying attention.
the Earth is a sphere, and how it can only work within the heliocentric globe model.
Globe model. It can only work. Work makes... There's some physical implications to that word. Right, work, as in do things, put to practical use in the physical world that we live in. No. The model is a way of describing the world that we live in, and it's got its flaws, like the second law of thermodynamics. We don't live on a model. That's a reification fallacy. Now, as much as I appreciate the support, Elvis Kavovic, telling Neil to shut up via a super chat isn't very friendly, is it? Let's be honest about that. Neil is my everyman here. He has a voice and is entitled to use it. But thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. He says, shut up, Neil. Sorry, just check if I read that right. Shut up, Neil. Yeah, I did read that one right. Okay, shout out to Godzilla.
I didn't hear that. Hang on, I didn't hear that. Can you read it again?
It says, shut up, Neil.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
It was paid for, so it's only reasonable that I make sure I read it right. Go ahead.
I do appreciate he's trying to read. I do appreciate he's trying to reify something. I just want to know what he is trying to reify, what model he thinks he has.
An idea, it's his belief. He thinks he's got a model. In reality, he's just got a belief that he's got a model. Shout out to Godzilla37. Says, genius abhors consensus because when consensus is reached, thinking stops. Stop nodding your head. Best quote from Einstein. That is a good quote. Genius abhors consensus because when consensus is reached, thinking stops. Stop nodding your head. End quote. Best quote from Einstein. Really good. Thank you for the super chat, the Godzilla37. Wow, they're rolling in. Lots of super chats. Shout out to Skeptic936 who says, Neil is the man. Neil is the man. He's our everyman. Shout out to D-Rose also.
Correct.
That is correct indeed. Correctamundo. Shout out to D-Rose says, had no clue shows went on since Monday. Missed you all. All right. Did you think that I was completely cancelling the show?
That's Nathan. That's correct. The mundo, not mundo.
Correct. Mondo.
Mundo.
Mundo. Correct. The mundo.
I usually say correct the mungo.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we did this. That was fun.
And not in any flat Earth model.
Which model are you saying it's not in? You know, you're going to gather up all of them and show this isn't going to be occurring in all of them. Oh, no, it's a baseless assertion and generalization fallacy. My bad.
The moon is a sphere.
Is it? Prove that. How'd you prove it? You just made an assumption, right? How do you know it's a sphere? It's not by even your own estimations in your own model. Close enough to apply your binocular vision with your two eyes to it to get any sort of depth to it. And you're looking at it through telescopes. Well, that's not binocular vision either. So unless you're going to assert maybe libration to have an inference that it has a form of sphericity by the way the light's coming off it. But then I'd need to know all sorts of factors about how the light was coming off it. In terms of specular reflection, your descriptions in the heliocentric model of how it's reflecting the sun's light do not work. So I'm going to need to know all of those things before I make the assertion that it's a sphere. Now, I don't know that it isn't. Just want to get that in clear. I might add that to my... This will please the heliocentrists in terms of how my daughter, eldest, is getting educated. Just drop this in at the end. At the end of the lesson for the heliocentric model, I reminded her that she started off the lesson by asserting that looking at lights in the sky was science. And I asked her explicitly, do you now believe, knowing what you do about cause and effect, hypothesis construction, and scientific experimentation, that looking at the lights is science? And correctly so, she answered, no. Then she said, the lights in the sky are not planets. And I stopped her, prick your ears up, heliocentrists, and said, you don't know that either. I said, did you put that through the method to prove that they aren't planets, as described by heliocentrists? And she said, no. I said, so it's unreasonable to go around declaring that someone's belief in planets, lights in the sky, isn't true unless you've disproven it for your own satisfaction. Now, I was, but didn't, intending, and I will when she's older, to go on to explain that you challenge it based on the validity of the claim being offered. Now, for Eleanor, I drum into her the value of primary source research continually. She is nothing else. But in this instance, I'm trying to focus on her understanding of the scientific method, and an assertion that the lights in the sky are or are not planets isn't necessarily part of the scientific method in terms of whether you can answer that question, because it's a concrete noun based on a just so story as opposed to a natural phenomena. But when they twinkle, you might be able to put it through the method. And in this instance, it's not reasonable to say that I do not know, or more accurately, the moon isn't spherical, because I don't know that's the case either. I don't know it's not the case. But this declaration, without any evidence whatsoever, seems, and is, totally unreasonable, based purely on his faith of heliocentrism's declarations of it being a spherical item. Shout out to D-Rose, who says, I didn't think you identify... I don't know why it is with D-Rose's super chats that I struggle to read them. Didn't think indefinitely cancelled shows. Thought the technical issues were still going on and delayed you longer, so great. Have you all 100% back? Yeah. No, the technical issues hadn't changed at all. So while I did ramp up my e-begging and actually did achieve my ends, so as of before the end of last week, mostly Paul just dropped a wedge on me by PayPal, and because he dropped a wedge and I had got a little bit extra already being paid out by Give Send Go, the combined amount was the same as 2 on eBay. So I just immediately ordered them, and they came yesterday. And I actually rewired them a little bit this morning just before the show. That's why we were a little bit late. So yeah, there was a technical issue, but that was always the case. I just tentatively stressed the fact that I was having technical issues because they'd been going on for ages, and everyone had lost interest. So everyone pricks their interest at when you go, right, there's going to be no shows because I'm running on the bare bones of equipment. Strictly not true. I could have done another show. I was actually celebrating my youngest daughter's birthday. But there we go. All that happened, or all that changed, was nothing other than me stressing the fact that I was having technical issues, which have now been resolved. But I am extremely grateful, as I detailed in yesterday's Uncut and at the beginning of yesterday's live show, extremely happy that I get the support that I do, so I can resolve technical issues like that at a pinch and just move on. And you can probably tell from my attitude today, I'm really happy, right? Because I haven't woken up and gone to the amp and gone, is this going to go bang? Is this going to work? Come on, work. Come on. I didn't do that. Just turned them on. It was great. Thank you for the super chat, though, D-Rose. Sorry we've gone off on such a crazy side track.
Back to the moon. Back to the moon. Can I ask you a question? We're told that we only see one side of it. Is that true?
Not exactly. If you look at libration in terms of how the apparent revealing of more sections of the moon, I think you could argue that you can see 56 or 7% of it as an assumed sphere as the light moves from one side to the other through the phases. So in other words, let's assume it is a sphere. What you would be observing is the slight back side of it at the beginning of the moon phases, and then an extra couple of percent on the other side of it towards the end of the phases. So if you superimposed all of them, this is where you your argument starts to require a bit of extrapolation. If you took all of the images and sort of sandwiched them together, you'd see that you've got more than one face of a flat circle. Yeah, more like you're seeing 57% of a sphere. So that I don't decry the libration argument, is what I'm saying. And when you say we only see one face, there's a bit more to it than that.
Yeah, I didn't say this. It's what I read. It's what I read them saying.
I'll tell you this. We only experience the moon in one way, and to say we see a certain percentage would be a claim, and I wouldn't get behind that.
That is the claim. That's the libration claim.
Yeah, I wouldn't get behind it.
But the assertion within the claim is based on the premise that it is a sphere as assumed, and what you're seeing of the exposed sides of the sphere is more than just one flat face of a flat circle. Now, if you extrapolate it out with the assumption that Earth's a sphere and the Moon's a sphere, you could make that inference. Now, the fact that we debunked the aspects of Earth's sphericity in relation to the Moon doesn't mean, it's back to me highlighting why I detailed this to my eldest daughter. I don't know what the Moon is. So can I categorically say it's not a sphere? No, I see that as just as unreasonable, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I'm not going to say it is. I'm not going to say it isn't. I'm going to say I don't know. But when someone offers me evidence for its sphericity, in the case of libration, I find it mildly compelling. That's all I'll say.
I take the stand. I say take the stand. I don't know what it is, because I cannot get there to validate what it is. I don't care about libration.
Well, that's the thing. If you've not seen 100% of it, how do you know what percentage you are seeing?
Exactly.
Exactly, John.
Perfect. 100 people watching. Woohoo! Much better than yesterday. I don't know why yesterday's show was so underwhelmingly watched, but it was for some reason. So hopefully today won't be the same, and you'll all smash that share button and we'll get to 120, 125 people. Might even have an extended live show. You never know your luck. Especially as I'm in a really good mood.
That orbits the Earth about once every 27 days. Some flat earthers will claim that the Moon is a flat disk.
Really? Show me somebody claiming it's a flat disk. Who's claiming that?
I never did.
I didn't claim that.
He did say some, and I'm sure you could find an idiot out there that would claim that. He is a flat earther.
Okay, so therefore it's a stereotyping fallacy. Fine.
Well, I don't know.
Lite.
He said some.
Well, I'd argue unless you at least examples 3, I'm not going to accept that in any way, shape, or form. Some would be, okay, here's 3 examples. Yeah, at that point, some is okay. If you show 2 examples, a couple of flat earthers say the Moon's a flat disk. Okay. I'm going to need more than nothing, which is what he'll provide.
In the sky, or some sort of projection, or even a hologram. All of these are absurd and easily refuted by the evidence.
Maybe so. So, are you going to refute them?
The fact that there are many different explanations...
Yeah, no, that's not a refutation. Offering up more explanations doesn't refute anything. If somebody has said the Moon's a hologram, I'd go, okay, what have you got to prove that? That's what I'd say. I wouldn't say, there's so many other explanations, that's instantly debunking your claim that it's a projection. I don't know either way still. Like I wouldn't decry it being a sphere because I don't know. I don't know that it's not a hologram or a projection. I just assess it based on the standard of evidence. You've hand-waved it based on there being lots of other explanations. That's useless. It's called a hand-wave dismissal.
And again, I use the term loosely, for the Moon within the flat Earth community should tell you something. There is only one explanation in the heliocentric model, the right one. But how do we know the Moon is a solid sphere? Because no matter where you are on the Earth, when you look at the full Moon, it is always circular.
What? So what that proves that
Really?
That proves it's solid? What? So if I shine a torchlight up on the roof of my house, you're going to tell me that the light itself is something physically solid because it's circular? That's useless. That's a complete non sequitur.
Only a sphere looks round from all vantage points. If it were a flat disk, a light, or projection circling above the flat Earth, just a few thousand miles up, it would appear to look elliptical as it moves away from us.
Yeah, but that disproves that it's not a flat circle. So, okay, yeah, I'll give you credit where credit's due. For the couple, maybe few, maybe several flat earthers that say it's a circle, you've disproved that. Okay, good on you. Well done. That doesn't prove its sphericity, though.
Like this, because our viewing angle would change.
Yeah, we got that. We got that.
Okay, hang on. What's the title of this third video?
Proving the Earth is not flat, part 3. This is proving the moon is not flat.
Part 3 is the moon is not flat.
No, Earth. But even though he's saying this proves Earth is not flat, what he actually means is by straw man stereotype fallacy, a couple of flat earthers say the moon is flat and circular, and it's not. So,
Right,
as I said,
but
it's a total non sequitur to the claim in the title.
well, this is what he did in the first one. He took forever to get to the point, but he just dribbled. He's dribbling now all about the moon, which I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a sphere. I don't care if it's a disk. I don't care if it's a hologram. What's it got to do with Earth being not flat?
He's saying flat earthers are wrong when they, by stereotyping fallacy, say the moon is flat. Therefore, flat earthers in general being wrong means Earth's a sphere, because he's made the declaration that there is only one other explanation. So it's also a false dichotomy fallacy. He's saying one option, flat Earth, circular, wrong. Other option, and only other option, because it's correct, globe Earth. Therefore, spherical moon, therefore globe Earth, affirming the consequent. Shout out to Retro Bill for the super chat. He says, please apply this payment towards my Flat Earth Union dues. Will do. Already been done. Thank you for the super chat.
Can he start giving us proof of a sphere instead of looking at the moon?
We'll see.
Also, as I pointed out in part 1, it would shrink and disappear as it moved away.
Yeah, you're labouring the point here. You've had your credit. You've disproved the few or however many you haven't cited flat earthers that say the moon is a circle. Okay. Yeah, this doesn't prove Earth is a sphere. It doesn't disprove Earth as a flat plane. It disproves and only disproves the assertion by non-cited sources that the moon is a circular pancake.
Like this, if it were only due to perspective, as flat earthers claim.
So cite them, show them, and then disprove them. Like we're disproving you as an individual. You know, when you get things wrong as an individual, we'll correct you. We won't say it's the heliocentric model that's wrong.
It never does this. It slides behind the horizon at the same shape and size as it was when it was overhead.
Wowee. Proving what? No,
Well,
it
that's not
doesn't prove
true.
anything. Just disproves the assertion made by a handful of people you didn't cite that it's a flat circle. Okay, well done.
That's not exactly true either, because we've all seen moon rising huge. 5-6 minutes later, it shrinks. Why? Because it's right there in the horizon where all the density compression is. So it's not always the same size, even that when it goes away, if it hits the horizon.
A plug. So we got.
Can I ask them real quick?
You can. And
I
then I'll
don't.
do a plug.
I'm not knocking anything, but in my 56 years of life, I've never seen the moon so-called rise or set. I got to look for that. I either catch it when it's already up there, or whether it's daytime or nighttime. But I actually gotta. That's something I heard y'all talking about. That I was like, wow, it actually does that as like the sun does. I guess it should, being that these things travel. They circumnavigate around the plane. But I gotta look for that. Is there a specific time of the evening where you can catch that,
No.
or day, or
It's
whatever?
It's usually a full moon when it's happening.
Contextually, no. I've never seen that at the horizon.
Okay.
So at the horizon, I've not seen
Yeah.
the moon rise. I've seen plenty of sunrises. I'm answering you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
answer you, D-Rose.
Thanks.
Yes, at the horizon, I've not seen that, and it's very difficult to find as well if you search for it. If you search for moonrise at the horizon, there might be some NASA stuff that's taken from high altitude that I've been shown that looks very unconvincing. But as far as just the average Joe catching a moonrise at the horizon, it's not that common. As
I've seen
opposed
it.
to, I'm nearly there, as
Sorry.
opposed to seeing it coming over the local geometric, non-geometric, whatever you want to call it, horizon. So if you've got a tree line, then yeah, you can easily induce a moonrise above that local horizon. Anyway, I'm just going to do a quick plug. This is Refracted Philosophy channel. If you're not already subscribed to Refracted Philosophy, which is relatively new, then go and subscribe today. But it's going to have a special running in a day and a half, so later on tomorrow evening. So I've put the link to this. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe now. Refracted Philosophy channel. So the 420 special is going to be coming out in 32 hours' time from wherever you may be. So it's 11 o'clock for us here in the UK tomorrow. So check it out. Be here or be sphere. Link running by in the live stream chat right now.
But thank
Building your online business?
you for answering that, Nathan, because you built.
Go on.
Thank you for answering that because you basically, and I know I didn't ask that question or even plug in to say anything to trigger you to say that appropriate answer, but you basically made me feel like, okay, man, I'm not the only one that's never seen it. Literally, I'm being 100%.
Yeah, well, it's not uncommon. It's a good question. You know, it's worth answering. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people now watching the show. Woohoo! 106 people watching. Someone's going to go, all right, I'll just Google moonrise and see what you come up with. Well, I encourage you to do so. Anyway, gifted one membership from Goldie, and Psych Bear got it. So thank you very much for gifting memberships out there. I really appreciate it. People get to see the Uncut and After Show without worrying about stupid scheduling. Anyway, thank you for the gifted membership, Goldie. Really appreciate your support. Why is there no sound from it? Oh.
Circular craters appear increasingly elliptical as they approach the edges, and exactly in the right direction, due to the curvature of the moon's spherical surface. The moon's phases are caused by the light of the sun reflecting off the moon.
Wrong. Specular reflections, look it up. That would debunk that assertion in terms of the even light that you've got on the moon. It cannot be a reflection from the light from the sun. That is impossible. Oh wow, just got £100 super chat from Tony. Today's been a fantastic show from a financial point of view. Thank you so much, Tony. Keep crushing it, one and all. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. And we'll continue right now.
As the moon revolves around the Earth,
by way of begging the question fallacy, and by the way that light is debunked by specular reflections, I'm going to say no. This begging the question fallacy will not fly.
we see it at different angles in relation to the sun's light.
Wrong. Specular reflections. Look it up.
The moonlight takes on a series of shapes as it goes through its monthly cycle. You can see with a simple demonstration that any sphere lit from one side and viewed from different angles will take on these shapes.
However, you're begging the question of this bit. The view from Earth, I can say fine, other than this new moon that doesn't exist. But with the exception of that particular part of a view of nothing, because a view of a new moon isn't a view of anything, you've got this bit. This is the bit you need to prove. Yeah? You need to prove that the Earth is a spherical shape that you're assuming when you give this description given to you by the church.
Also, it's important to remember that the sun is about 400 times farther away than the moon.
Wrong. We can debunk that assertion. You'd need an R value and Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. Right on time when I say it's come from the church. It's come from a Jesuit priest. It's come from Kepler at the behest of the church to better understand when Easter would be. That's how you have your elliptical motions. That's where this model reification that you are employing has come from. Well, that doesn't give you a value for a distance to the sun or moon. It's a scale that's been applied by way of an assumption that Venus has the same size radius as Earth, debunked by the Black Swan in 2020. Now, that assumption of Earth's radius transposed onto Venus to give you an application of Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion to give you the scale and distance only works if you've got an R value for a sphere Earth that you can prove. And you can't. We've debunked it. So these baseless assertions are just that, because the claimed evidence to back them has been debunked. No, you don't know the distances to the moon. No, you don't know the distances to the sun.
So sometimes the lighted side doesn't look like it points directly to the sun, but you have to think three-dimensionally to see that it does.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't work the way it perhaps could, but if you think outside the box and look back at Earth as a sphere from a position you're not standing on, then it works. Way to declare how it doesn't work. It's a model. A model for predicting the movements of the lights in the sky. It is not for you to reify you looking back at Earth as a sphere. That's not what it's for. It's to predict when Easter comes. Kepler, yeah? Jesuit priests. The church. Knowing when Easter is.
Some flat earthers think the phases of the moon are supposed to be caused by the Earth's shadow. That is wrong.
Right? You think that flat earthers think that Earth in a heliocentric model that causes shadows on the moon causes a shadow on the moon. You're not going to cite this, but this glaring baseless assertion and stereotyping fallacy is now going to cut to a pizza pie causing a flat line on a moon, I don't doubt.
The shadow we normally see on the moon is just the moon's own shadow, the side that is shaded because it is away from the sun. This is...
No. You need to cite these people. You need to show this, because this is just crap. You're making this up. Unless you can show me somebody saying this.
This is very different from lunar eclipses.
Oh, so moving on past the baseless assertion and stereotyping fallacy.
When the Earth's shadow is seen on the moon.
We are just going to automatically assume that because the stereotyping fallacy has flat earthers assuming it's a shadow and the heliocentric model assumes it's a shadow, we're all in agreement, nod, it's a shadow. No. No, I don't accept that it's a shadow. Prove it's a shadow before you make the assertion that you're fighting against flat earthers who also think it's a shadow from Earth. I dare you to find one. Show me that person.
More on that later.
Oh, no, definitely not. Just moving on again. This guy's a complete wanker. How dare you stereotype me with this garbage without any citation?
Some flat earthers will claim the moon gives off its own light, rather than reflecting the sun's light.
Again, I don't know that's not the case, but if somebody claimed that, I'd ask them to justify their belief in that. I'd ask them to give me some evidence of what the moon actually is. Yeah, that's what we do. So while some flat earthers might do this, maybe you could cite them and then take them, like I'm taking this guy, VoysovReason, apart based on what he as an individual says, and how it is or isn't correct within the model he's claiming, and how that claim within the model is or isn't correct based on reality. That's what I'm doing. But what is this wishy-washy some flat earthers? This dick, VoysovReason, says we have shadows on moon. Yet you have said that, you have claimed that. I don't claim that. So where are these some flat earthers? What I have done is taken apart what you have claimed. Now, if it's a heliocentric claim and accurate to within the heliocentric claim, we'll take that apart too. That's what we do. Yeah? I don't go around saying, some globe head dicks, blah, 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 and then pull apart that claim. It's a straw man, stereotyping, baseless assertion fallacy. You're just full of them, VoysovReason. It's irritating. I couldn't bear to get through your other two videos to their entirety, and I probably won't be able to bear this one either, because it's very irritating. Cite some sources. Take apart people based on what they have said, like I'm doing to you.
This is simply impossible. What mechanism could possibly explain how a big rock gives off light?
How the hell do you know it's a big rock? What, are you stereotyping your opponent that doesn't exist with them also saying it's a big rock? Where it's only you that's claiming it's a rock. In a sky vacuum, floating around. It's absolutely and utterly absurd. Rocks don't fly around in vacuums. This stupid shit is your claim that it's a rock. Now, I would assert that rocks don't behave the way that you have them behaving in a heliocentric world, in a vacuum. And I can demonstrate that not being possible to replicate. Now, your belief that it is a rock is just that. You, an individual called VoysovReason by way of YouTuber certificate naming. That's you, one guy. Yeah? Now, the heliocentric model has it as a rock. Also. But that would put it in a sky vacuum that we can debunk, making the assertion false on every level. Hello, Adam.
Afternoon, everyone.
which just
Are we still
happens to
talking about
move
the
across
moon?
the surface.
Yeah, that's the name of the video. The title of this video is Proving the Earth is Not Flat, Part 3, The Moon. But yes, we are still talking about the moon until I get irritated with this very lengthy 20-minute video. I'm already irritated. We're only 3 minutes and 35 seconds in.
In a pattern corresponding to the direction of the sun. And when the moon is less than full,
That's not true either. You just told us that's not the case. In order to make it the case, you've got to think outside the box, move away several thousand miles, if not several 100,000 miles away from your model of a heliocentric world with the moon moving around it. Then you can make it match up. If you think three-dimensional, you just told us that. But now you're going to just completely go back on what you've explained to be the case by saying, no, that is the case from our vantage point. It doesn't work. The angles don't match up. They do if you extrapolate it out from a third position, looking back at Earth.
it is easy to see
In your model that you reify, I might add.
shadows in its
How
crater.
do you know they're shadows? How have you proved this? Have you put yourself in a position where one thing's occulting another to prove it's a shadow? No.
Craters and on the side of its mountains, proving that the light is external. The moon
No, specular reflections debunk that assertion.
cannot be its own light source. It cannot work. It makes no sense. And
No. Based on me exampling specular reflections and how they work, it couldn't be reflecting the sun's light. That's an example with a demonstration. Evidence to back up what I say. What you're just doing is spewing.
has no plausible mechanism. The
I
evidence
don't need to explain the mechanism. I'm not making a claim about it. You are. You claim it's reflecting sunlight. I can debunk that. Specular reflections.
all shows that the moon is a big, reflecting,
Wrong. Definitely not.
spherical rock.
No, I don't accept your assumption that it's spherical. I need more evidence than just libration, which you didn't cite. Beyond that, you didn't cite anything else. You told me to take myself off Earth and look back at Earth as a sphere as you assume it. That was your evidence. Garbage.
When we look at the moon from anywhere on Earth, we see the same face of it, with the same distinctive craters and large dark areas called mare. This is because the moon rotates at the same rate that it revolves around the Earth.
As demonstrated by what? Have you proved that Earth's a sphere and we have these orbital motions assumed by Kepler? These motions that you're describing were assumed by a priest.
It does this because the pull of the Earth's gravity caused a
Gravity doesn't pull anything. It's not a force. It can't pull. Quote, George Musa, gravity is not a force. End quote. Quote, Professor Brian Cox. There isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote. So what are you talking about? What's pulling? There's nothing to pull. It's not a force.
a slight bulging of the moon.
Go on.
I was just saying, like, a lot of these videos that we're reviewing, they all sound like they're talking like cartoon characters, and they're just obviously reading from a heliocentric script. But they've all got this same tone, like they're in a cartoon.
That's
like
'cause
the
they
voices
are.
are going up.
They are
Yeah, they are,
in a
yeah.
cartoon. He's literally showing you a cartoon.
Yep, exactly. And you know what else? You mentioned it. It's amazing how that one, the Chopra guy that did this back in, I forget what, 20th century, 19 something. And this guy is not even a quote scientist or a quote astrophysicist or quote astronaut or anything, but he's a clergyman, white collar clergyman who makes this claim and assertion that gets published, and it took off, and everybody rides with it. So, which reinforces the claim that this is a religion. That's all it is. It's a heretical, faithful, dogmatic propaganda. Period.
And gradually, that slowed the moon down until its rotation rate, relative to the Earth, reached 0. This is called tidal locking, and it is not unique to our moon. It occurs in most of the large moons in our solar system as well. And
No, you're just assuming this crap. Yeah? The way you've got tidal locking also comes with the story of Thea, which I'm not going to go through now. Yeah, the debris of collision. Seems like I am going to go through it. From a different planet, and the debris going into an orbital motion, assumed by Kepler, to then be in tidal locking. That's the debris from us, being the moon. You can't prove any of this at all. And the evidence standard is a cartoon with a smiley face on it. That's your standard of evidence. This cartoon. It's pathetic.
And also the planet Mercury.
What? Really? Planet? Why would you make these assumptions?
The moon is about 239,000 miles from Earth.
You'll need R for that. We've already covered this. You don't know the distance to the sun. It's just right on time, right on cue. Every time I mention Kepler and the church and the priesthood and the people trying to predict when Easter would be based on the movements of the lights, we get to this assertion with a distance value at 239,000 miles. Yet you'll need an R value to make that assumption so that you can imply that Kepler was right. The church were right in terms of their predictions of when these lights would appear in the sky. Yeah, well, based on that, you'll need the R value superimposed onto Venus so that you can assume that this priest was correct when he described his elliptical motions of these lights in the sky for his predictions of when Easter would come. But the value needs R. We've debunked it. There's no tangent point horizon to derive an R value for a spherical Earth with the physical limitation to your view for boats to fall over on a globe being below the surface level we actually navigate and measure. That's never going to happen. So no.
In most diagrams of the Earth and Moon, you will see them close together, like this.
What about the photos of Earth from space? Oh, you don't have any. They're a sky vacuum-based claim from a priest's assumptions of a motion of a light in the sky with a superimposition of an R value we debunked into 2020 onto Venus to give you the scale, to give you these numbers. Yeah, we can debunk all of that, my friend. Every single bit of it. Wow, the super chats have been absolutely astronomical, and there's over 100 people watching, which is glorious. Shout out to Retro Bill. Your Excellency, please apply this payment towards a flat Earth indulgence. Okay, I'll see if I can do that. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Retro Bill. Really appreciate these really heavy-hitting super chats today. I don't know why I deserve it, but I'm grateful for it. I can tell you that much. Thank you very much.
That
You're
means
all
you've got
ace.
to take us to the pub.
That was
Is that what it is?
Go
Take
on,
you all
Adam.
out for beer.
That's it.
I can
No,
buy
that
at
was
least
a- that-
at least 3 beers in today's money with £50, right?
And we
That
can
was
split
a
a bag of
ref-
peanuts.
And a
That'll
bag
do.
of maybe half a bag of peanuts. You're right.
I think that was a reference for the Catholic Church selling indulgences.
Yeah, I got the reference. It was good. Thank you, Retro Bill. Very clever.
But this is not nearly the correct scale. When drawn to scale, we see that the moon is way out in the distance, about 30 times the width of the Earth away. This is why we are able to see the same face of it from everywhere on Earth.
But if we draw it this distance with us several 100,000 miles away from both of them, when did we get this view? Oh, it's just the cartoon based on Kepler. Yeah, this priest.
Terrible logic.
Yeah, terrible. Go ahead, Adam.
Statement that if something's far away, that's why I can only see one face of it. He's not backing his statements up much, is it?
No.
I just wanted to add one thing: is the presupposition that comes with this description of the moon keeping its face, the wording they use to describe it, which is tidal locking to invoke something else. I don't know whether he'll use it later. Always found that a strange description. Totally because
At that distance, our angle of view is essentially the same from all locations on Earth. How do we know it's that far away? Well,
Hang on, did he say angle of it?
He said our angle of view is the same from all locations on Earth. That is
And
not
what's
true.
an angle?
Hold on. That
What's
is
an angle from Earth?
well, the angle measured would be an elevation angle, so it would require a flat plane.
Well, I thought this video was going to use the moon to prove the Earth wasn't flat, and he just said the angle of it from Earth.
That's a
He
flat
just
Earth
debunked
proof.
himself.
He's just proved a flat Earth. The angle measurement would require the establishment of a horizontal baseline to get the angle. In this respect, its position above the horizon being the thing utilized to get the aspect of flatness to give you an angle. That's two straight lines, not one curved line and one straight line. So if you say the angle in the diagram we just had up, it's the same from a spherical Earth. Number one, you can't get an angle from a spherical Earth, you clown. That's two straight lines meeting at a vertex. You'd need a flat plane for that angle to the moon. Secondly, if you drew out a tangent plane on a sphere Earth and drew out the angle at any distance and moved to the other side of that circle, you will change the angle to the moon. That's a fact. Mathematically, it doesn't matter how far it is. You could say, oh, it's only a tiny amount. Yeah, it's changed though, hasn't it? Yeah, doesn't matter about the
Did you
quantity of
mention-
change. Qualitatively, if you move in the diagram he gives, the angle will change. That's a fact.
Is he now going to link
Voice
that to libration, do you think? And
I don't know.
claim
He hasn't got to it yet. I preempted it, and he hasn't got to it yet.
I'm just curious as to whether he's going to try to show that as a ball Earth proof. How he's going to, again, the variation in the light in the sky, how that demonstrates that the surface is standing on is flat. I don't get it.
I'm confused about what you're postulating he might do now, because you said flat globe Earth proof. Well, that's thrown me right off. Do you mean globe moon proof? Don't you mean globe moon proof?
It doesn't even prove that, does it?
You can infer it. I don't mind that if that's what you're suggesting he might do. But if you're suggesting that the inference of a spherical moon by way of libration, weak though it may be, actually infers the globe surface, that's a stretch too far.
No, totally. I'm just wondering how he's going to link the two, because this is titled, it's proving the Earth is not flat, not ponderances of the moon.
Okay, well,
The voice of retard. Hold on a second. The voice of retard wiki parroter said that the angle, you guys already went over it, would be an elevation angle, would be the same on every place on his sphere tard. But that's not true.
Didn't I just cover that like 2 seconds ago?
There'd be different elevation angles depending on where you're at on the Earth.
Yes, correct.
No, but
He's not meaning that. What's he meaning that?
I'm thinking he's meaning that the view you have of the face of the moon, the angles to it, the face you're going to see, is negligible difference wherever you are stood on the ball
Adam,
Earth.
ever the apologist. No, he did not say negligible difference. He said will not change. And he's factually wrong.
It would be the same, he said.
It said virtually.
What angles are we talking about?
Did he say hold on, let's get to the bottom of this.
He
Did
said
he say
virtually, which is
virtually?
why I thought it was going to bring in vibration.
Bastard. I've got to grit my teeth and I'll take it back from Adam. Okay, Adam, because he said virtually, you are correct.
I assume that's why he's going to work it in.
Say again?
One of you go.
One of you. Adam, go.
That's all I'm assuming from the way he's setting it up, because he's had to. Right, so to keep it on a ball, and to keep the moon a ball, he's got to take it to that massive difference. So the angles to the face of the moon that you're going to see are negated by the distance. That's what he's made in the claim there. There will be a difference, yeah, but it'll be negated because it's so far away. But that, to me, is what's semi-described as libration. Whether he gets there, I don't know. But that to me, I'm not being too mean to him there. He's only describing his model and the mathematical claim within that in terms of.
Rewind it.
Okay, yeah. I will. We'll hear if he had the weasel word.
Most diagrams of the Earth and Moon, you will see them close together like this, but this is not nearly the correct scale. When drawn to scale, we see that the Moon is way out in the distance, about 30 times the width of the Earth away. This is why we are able to see the same face of it from everywhere on Earth. At that distance, our angle of view is essentially the same from.
Bastard weasel words. Essentially. Essentially. We'll let him off. Okay, shout out to James Richard. Correct me if I'm wrong. One cannot use scientific method to determine Earth's shape. You would have to vary and manipulate the Earth. You're half right with why it's wrong. it's a concrete noun. So, like with my daughter, if she'd have said tree, I see a tree. Well, is a tree something happening? If you said I didn't see it last week and now it's there, then maybe. But no, that's not a phenomenon. The Earth being spherical or flat is outside the purview of the scientific method because nothing's happening. First step, observe natural phenomena. Earth as a sphere. Okay. Number one, you'd have to actually observe that, which we don't. And number two, it'd have to be something occurring. So what's occurring? Nothing. It's just my presupposition Earth's sphere-shaped. Shapes aren't occurrences. Concrete noun. Thank you for the super chat, James Richard. Really appreciate the support.
Wait, but the Earth is spinning, so that's a phenomenon.
You'd have to observe the Earth to be spinning for it to be an observed phenomena. It's only a phenomena if it's an observed phenomena. So to assume that we are on a non-inertial turning reference frame and the stars essentially remain stationary, even though they don't even in their model, and therefore the movement we observe is our rotation, that's a whole series of assumptive steps as opposed to fulfillment of the first step of the scientific method. Step one, observe natural phenomena. If you naturally observe Earth to be spinning, then fine. We don't. We can extrapolate it from the movements of the stars and then have it go wrong when you say, well, that makes us a non-inertial turning reference frame. Things would be drifting away from me. Oh, well, they do at 15 degrees an hour. Well, then Earth would have a effect on the flights. Oh, well, they don't drift away at 15 degrees an hour. We wouldn't expect to see it. Your reference frames are... That's the kind of shit we have to go through when it comes to them claiming something that we don't see naturally. We don't see Earth turning naturally, Neil. 118 people watching. Oh, we're on the border of maybe extending this live show. Smash that share button.
Well, while we're on this point, it's a key point to explain star trail photography, which I've done. So we've seen the time-lapse exposure and all the stars going around Polaris, right? So they're saying that's from axial rotation. But in reality, that is not true because they have not just axial rotation, they got the Earth orbiting the sun at 66,666 miles per hour. That comes to about 18.5 miles per second. So I bumped into my tripod before while doing this, and it just throws the whole star trails off. It blurs it out in the wrong direction. So this is evidence that we are not orbiting, and it's not axial rotation. It's the stars above that are moving over a stationary Earth. Everyone catch that?
Yes. Shout out to DJ One Deck, who's on the panel. It says, the globe is flat. It was measured like that. According to this, it now tells me when it's someone's first ever super chat. So thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Didn't think it was your first super chat, but there we go.
On Earth. How do we know it's that far away? Well, there are a number of ways to determine the distance to the moon. One way is by measuring the moon's angle above the horizon simultaneously.
Angle above the horizon. So two straight lines with the horizon being used to establish a flat baseline. That's a flat Earth proof. See this? This isn't an angle. That's a straight line meeting a curve. So what's that you say? You used the horizon to establish a horizontal baseline for an angle? You just proved Earth's flat, Dumbo.
From two distant points on Earth. And then using simple trigonometry to calculate.
So using triangles that definitely won't have curves in them to calculate. Yeah, you're going to need a flat Earth for this. What an idiot.
Calculate the height. When this is done,
for this particular thing, he's going to need R, isn't he, as well?
Yeah, we covered that. But yeah, 115 people watching. It's going down. Looks like we're going to round out in about a minute. If we don't get another 10 people watching, smash the share button. You never know your luck. Might extend this live show a little bit.
The distance to the moon is calculated to around 239.
Calculated? So didn't you say measured a second ago? Measured off a flat plane, then calculated with R.
Yes, he did, sir.
9,000 miles. And this closely matches other modern methods of measuring the distance, including radar and lasers.
Radar and lasers, what with the return signal coming back from the lasers based on an R value assumption, again based on Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and Venus having the same value as R for Earth, so that you can get the distance calculations based on the speed of light, and therefore the timing for the return signal to these laser apparently fired at the moon. Okay, well then you'd need the original assertion of the R value to give you your presumed timing distances to reference when they should return based on your assumptions. Notice how I concisely debunked every single aspect of this stupid crap that we can measure return signals from lasers based on heliocentric assumption of an R value, so we know when to look for the return signal. Yeah, it all falls apart when you haven't got an R value, my friend.
And also ancient methods.
Also, is invalidated by the fact that they can't agree what the return signal would look like, and they had to be told after they couldn't find it that this was it there for them to then nod and go. I think that's to do with the sun, but it's the same principle. Except, of course, we're not claiming that when we went to the moon. Well, we're claiming that when we went to the moon, we stuck some mirrors on the moon to help assist this measurement.
Show has earned me over $200 today. Unbelievable. Just rags to riches sometimes in flat Earth, I guess. Thank you very much indeed. And not that $200 is riches, but it is to me. I really appreciate all this support. I just want to shout out Goldie, just one sec. I'm super chatting because so many others are. Clearly, I can't think for myself. That's a fairly standard flat Earth assumption there, Goldie. But I'm pretty sure you thought long and hard about that comment, and I'm really appreciative of it. Also, 10 more minutes, ? Says Skeptic936. As we are bordering on 120 people watching, I'm going to stay live until it drops. So yes, 10 more minutes. Indeedy do.
Skep is ace, Goldie is ace, and Tent is ace. Go ahead.
Yeah, Adam just said mirrors on the moon because that's what they said. Kiwi, didn't you say that they were bouncing signals before they even went to the moon?
Yes, 1961.
Who went up there in 61 for the mirror?
His sister.
Nobody went up there. But based on the same values and the same assumptions, they used to say that they'd bounce lasers off the moon before they went up with the retroreflectors. So just to expand on this story, after reading Rinsler's enormous super chat, I got big super chats today, $50. Thank you so much for all of these big super chats. I really do appreciate it. An observation, : chemtrails should have a visible curvature to them as they supposedly follow the curve from their altitude. Correct? ? They are always straight lines, without question. I expect such a thing from only an ascent or descent, not cruising. That's an awkward one, especially when you've paid $50 for it, because no, from your position, what you're witnessing when you see the plane come from the horizon to potentially your zenith, and then following out to the other horizon on the opposite side of your peripheral vision, isn't a straight line, is it? In the same way as you observe the stars, you can map them in a dome, which has then become the celestial sphere model. But that isn't because the stars are in a dome shape, and it isn't because the plane in this example with the chemtrail coming out of the back of it is moving from your vantage point in a straight line, because it does take an apparent curved path as it comes from the horizon in the distance to your zenith and then out to the horizon again. That isn't straight, is it? So, I hate to do it to you, but I really appreciate all these massive super chats. Hopefully you're not irritated to the point where you won't super chat me ever again because I've corrected something you've said in it. But thank you very much for the support. Oh, well, that will be good because that'll...
Chat.
Go on.
I understand the point, and yes, they are. The only curve you're going to see is on the horizon as you get compression, but you will. I understand the point he's making. You will see a straight line. Now, you will see an angular change in its altitude. Its elevation angle will increase as it comes to you, but that line will still be straight due to perspective. It'll be a perspective line because it's flying at the same altitude when it comes into vision as when it's over your head. So you get a straight line. But what he's saying is to maintain that altitude, it has to curve because in the distance, you've got the curvature being expressed. So that the pilot has to curve the plane.
I see what you're saying now. So you're saying that even though, notwithstanding the fact that, yes, at the horizon, as it reaches a reasonable elevation, you will see a mild degree of curvature. But from that point, your own brain and vision and general understanding of how the world works will correct what you're seeing to appear straight, because it is assuming that it's maintaining the same level flight as it sprays out whatever it's coming out of the back of it. Okay, so based on that, we observe it to be straight. Fine, I'll accept that. Okay, with a lot of caveats. But if it was, as he's suggesting, actually traversing a curve, that would mean it would have to be following an 8 inches per mile squared descent around the curvature of the Earth to maintain level flight. Therefore, no matter which way you dice it, the apparent line that we see out of the back of that plane would be apparently curved. We'd see it as a curved line if the plane had to follow the curvature of the Earth. Correct, Adam?
Yeah, because it's not just coming in on a flat plane flying at the same altitude, therefore you only see perspective. It's mitigating for height change, and that height change is going to be relative to the curve and you, the observer. So you won't get a straight perspective line.
Couple more shout outs. Shout out to Sasha Unitox Femu, who's been a member for a hell of a long time, 29 months. Wow. At best, you only debunked radius. It's not quite an accurate quote, but that's a quote from Mr. Sensible. At best, you debunk the radius, is how we paraphrase it, and then he moans and says, you didn't add the rest of it. So I'll do that now. At best, you debunk the radius of the Earth. End quote, Mr. Sensible. Shout out to JMels24 also, who says, I don't understand any of this. I need 4 more hours. Maybe we'll see how we're getting on. Got 110 people watching. So maybe we'll round out in a couple of minutes. We'll see how we get on. Thank you for the super chats, everybody. Really appreciate all of this support. Don't know why I'm deserving of it today particularly, but thank you anyway.
Such as using lunar eclipse geometry. But since the method uses the horizon, the calculation works out quite differently if you assume the Earth is flat, because you then assume the horizon is the same in both locations.
Whoa. No. Nobody's assuming that the horizon, a point of dissolution, is the same for 2 different observers. It's relevant only to your observation position and your own eyeballs as you look at it as an individual. However, both of these individuals seem to be having straight lines coming off a curve. So where it says horizon line, why on unholy hell would they be looking up here? Wouldn't they be looking at the physical geometric sphere edge obstruction at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet on a sphere? Isn't that what they'd be doing if they were on a globe, as opposed to acquiring 2 straight lines with a vertex to get an angle to the moon? You'll need a flat Earth for that. Yeah, both people need a flat Earth for that, because neither of them can get an angle from a curved surface. But what you say, they're using the horizon as a line? Yeah, that's strange, that, because that's where you get the word horizontal from. And you'll need that to get this angle. You'll need Earth to be flat to make this example. Okay, bonehead? Maybe let this bonehead know, obviously don't call him a bonehead in your comment, that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And why do we share these people who are obviously wrong and stupid and get promoted by YouTube anyway, given that this has had 230,000 views from somebody with a YouTube channel only the same as my own? Well, you have to let them know so that hopefully if they ever respond, they put a link to my video. So I afford myself some sort of algorithmic benefit when I'm making videos on YouTube and getting absolutely no promotion whatsoever. Not like I'm getting 230,000 views out of a video that's completely wrong and proves a flat Earth with its elevation angle measurements that utilise the horizon depicted out in space. Is this the horizon up here, Dumbo? Yeah, give him 230,000 views. Oh, 10th.
Nathan,
Your
can you go to
time. Yeah, I
Master
got it,
for a
10th. I got it.
picture?
Yeah. Time 10th from my panel members is epic. What's this? Is this a triangle out to the horizon that gives you the elevation angle measurement to the sun? What kind of craziness is this? Yeah, that's the kind of nonsense we have to deal with. This is what YouTube gives 230,000 views to. Absurd nonsense that does not work in geometric terms. Earth has to be flat for this to work.
He's just hung himself, though, hasn't he?
Yep.
Just to demonstrate, it's just Black Swan, mate. Just once again, you are telling me that the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. You're going to invoke refraction in a minute. So where this horizontal line, this tangent, whatever it has any validity, is nonsense, because you're claiming the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. Black Swan, my friend, that all falls apart. As pretty as the maths may be or not be, doesn't matter. He's claiming the horizon is the leading edge of a ball.
Shout out to Don't Shoot. Let's try that again. Shout out to Don't Shoot the Messenger. He just gives me money. Really appreciate it. From a financial point of view, I'm going to keep the live show going. It'd be crazy not to.
While on the curved Earth, you need to compensate for the curve of the Earth between the 2 points. So, assuming a flat...
Sorry, the 2 points of the angle, we have to compensate. No, we don't. What compensation needs to be made when you're not utilising the spherical surface to get your angle? What you're saying, you're going to beg the question of the spherical surface that didn't give you the angle after you've took the angle from a flat plane? You need to make that assumption, do you? These are very devastating declarations that you're making, my friend.
Flat Earth puts the moon much closer, and flat Earth...
Again, he's going to need R, because what he's going to have to do is express the distance between A and B as a circumferential distance, express that as a percentage of R for him to then calculate that as an angle generated between A, the center of Earth, and observer B, so that he can then do this maths with his tangents that he's creating off of his surface. He has to have R to apply this, otherwise you just can't do it.
Well, what we also notice, although we aren't stupid enough to infer that something that moves across our vantage point with perspective and then eventually reaches the horizon and disappears, we wouldn't be so stupid as to assert that when it reaches the horizon, it's touching the ground. No, we understand that that's not the case, therefore making any of these angle measurements in reference to height invalid for flat earthers who may make it. You're not exampling it, but what you are showing with your diagram, if I could get the text to move off, I might actually rewind it and just play this diagram again so that you can see what he shows. What he shows is the horizontal baseline when assuming that we're going to get the height of the moon. No, we wouldn't do that. That's stupid. But we do show that both people in this orthographic representation have a flat baseline for their flat baseline for an angle. That actually works when the Earth is flat because it has to be to acquire the angle in the first instance. And that is how you will acquire it, for you to infer that the line along the base is actually curved when you've just taken a flat Earth elevation angle measurement to the moon with it. So let's watch how absurd an elevation angle measurement looks when it's on a curved surface. And let's compare that to how it looks when we then put it onto a flat baseline exactly as the angle has been measured. So let's have a little looky.
Curved Earth.
So here we are. We're looking at the absurdity of the globe Earth elevation angle measurement. And then, whoop, oh, what do you know? The flat baseline matches with the flat ground that you look at when you're looking at the horizon. Isn't that weird how it works when you take an angle from a flat plane and use the horizon to establish the baseline? And it doesn't work at all when you've got a curved surface to give you a straight line? Yeah, that's a total fail, isn't it, my friend? Meanwhile, yeah, we wouldn't be trying to get heights of something that moves towards the horizon as the day progresses, because obviously it's not touching the ground at that location. You can get its GP above that location, telling us without any doubt that it's not touching the ground. So therefore, taking angle measurements to it isn't going to give us its height. Nor is it going to be able to transpose into an R-based world where the line that you took for the angle suddenly bends.
Besides all the other evidence for the curved Earth, we know the moon cannot possibly be that close, due to the simple fact that
We don't claim it's that close. You can take an elevation angle measurement from a flat baseline to acquire the angle to the moon, and then you can take that even if it's beyond the horizon you see and infer where its GP position would be with its angle, if you've got an almanac. But that doesn't mean that it's reaching the surface or therefore you could get the height, in both instances, I might add. Yeah? I assume that when you measure it on a globe Earth, you're going to have the same problem. That is to say that if one person's measuring it at the horizon, that massively alters the angles off a flat plane, that you then insert the R value to, giving you the exact same problem. You know, that's strange because that actually happened. Sly Sparkane did exactly that. Yeah, took lots of flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the moon to infer that when inserting an R value it would work. And what do you know? A lot of the angles didn't work. Yes, because it's moving towards the horizon as the day progresses for certain people who took that angle off a flat Earth for Sly Sparkane. This Dumbo, how long's he been in this subject? Clearly he hasn't got any historic information, even from recent history, in terms of how this fails for the globe when you prove a flat Earth with the angle to it and then infer you can insert R into it.
Everyone on Earth always sees the same face of the moon when it is visible in the sky. If it were only 3,000 miles away...
We don't say it is, and neither can you, and the angle that was took proved a flat Earth and can be used for navigation, not to find the height.
That simply would not be possible. Let's look at an example on the flat Earth map to demonstrate this.
Right, no.
It slides behind the horizon.
That's not a flat Earth map. That was an azimuthal, equidistant, north-centric globe projection. Definitely not a flat Earth map that you're about to straw man us with. And like last time when you did this, I'll just say that any failings from this map are based on the fact that it's a globe projection. Maybe if it hadn't been projected from a globe, it wouldn't have failed. What's that? It's a flat Earth map. No, it isn't. No, it's a north-centric, azimuthal, equidistant globe projection. Yeah, to make the map work with the latitude and longitude lines in a certain way, in terms of the sun's movements in this case, with an azimuthal projection in the form of the Gleasons. But they're all globe projections. So if you're going to tell us how a globe projection fails, I'll just say it's the globe projection that's caused that. Given that the ephemeris and the celestial sphere, you don't need to convert those onto a globe to get them to work with navigation. You just take angles off a flat plane to do it. And Bob's your uncle. It works. That's work in a physical capacity. Has a practical application in terms of saving people's lives if they're lost at sea. Unlike talking about what the moon is. That doesn't have any practical application in terms of saving people's lives, that's for damn sure. But the angle to the moon and its GP location if you're lost, that definitely has a useful application. Yeah? You'll need a flat Earth to do it, though. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, wow, thank you very much indeed for all the super chats, but this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, gifted memberships, received memberships, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's extended live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day! Remember Astro from the Jetsons? Remember how Astro
George
used
Jetson,
to talk?
His boy
Yeah, George
Elroy,
Jetson.
Jane.
I love
his
you,
wife.
George. George, he says, "Come on, Astro, we're going hunting." So Astro said, "Running? Yeah, running."
That's a lovely story. I'm glad I didn't rumpus it entirely.
Don't you mess with the Jetsons.
Good live show. Well, by good, I mean profitable.
Yeah. Well, it's just interesting on this last point. When the moon is directly above you, it's at your zenith, so 90 degrees. And if it's at the horizon, it's at 0. So it looks like it's touching. And you go from 90 to 0, that's 5,400 nautical miles based on celestial navigation. And his point was to take the majority of this video, spend it on the moon, and try to tell us what the moon is when the video is about using the moon to prove we don't live on a flat Earth. And then he comes back to angle measurements on the Earth about the same moon that he wanted to use. It was like, what?
Shape and size as it was when it was overhead.
I gotta be honest, I'm sick of this video.
Also, when you look closely at the moon with magnification, you can see that the circular craters appear increasingly elliptical as they approach the edges, and exactly in the right direction, due to the
magic speed.
We're back on the moon. We're back on the moon again.
It's magic speed.
The curvature of the moon's spherical surface.
It's not. He's just denied magic speed. Just NDT claims they're all perfectly circular, and that's due to a magic speed. So he's just opposed what NDT says there, hasn't he? If you look closer, they're elliptical. And that also
These are absurd and easy.
Sorry.
He's claiming, therefore, the craters are impact. Yeah, he's just claimed that the moon always keeps its face to the Earth. So how do any meteorites hit the face when it's always blocked and obscured by the Earth? The only places you get meteorites is on the back in their model.
Indeed. I mean, at this point, I'm sick of the video, so I'm going to stop playing it.
Well, that's what we're left to, Nathan, is just picking on their nuances in their model and what they subclaim with it. He's not demonstrating anything right now to do with the nature of Earth, is he? He's just
what model would that
be?
I'm sorry, what model would that be?
John had it earlier. John, refracted curvature, gave it us. Where is he? Oh, he's not here.
We went over it this morning. There is no model. And the sad thing is, Nathan, no matter how much you make this guy look silly, there's millions of people that are going to listen to this and say, oh, there it is. Proof.
Proof of what?
We can only hope.
No, all this guy did was spend an enormous amount of time on the globe rhetoric, moon rhetoric, everything sphere rhetoric. And then whenever he wanted to disprove flat Earth, he actually proved flat Earth.
And he was talking like a cartoon character.
Rhetoric regurgitation. They have nothing else. Just start from scratch, reassert the whole nonsense story once again. Doesn't matter how many times it's been disproven. That's the way you got to tell the story. It's like a fairy tale, except they claim it's real. But it is like a fairy tale.
Eat, sleep, rave, repeat.
Sorry, were you talking to me? I just got up to put the coffee machine on.
No, there was one deck just saying something. But I'll get you a big player tomorrow, Nathan, just to get us out of the basement.
Good. Because all three of those videos I didn't get. Normally we'll, get pretty close to the end or be encouraged to or want to do it the following show. All of these, by the time you get to about a third of the way into the video, he's so off the rails, making up so much garbage. It's like, it extends the amount of time you have to extend talking about his understanding of the heliocentric rhetoric and how it's wrong, then detail how the heliocentric rhetoric claims it's right, then take apart the heliocentric claim, and then move on with his next incorrect claim. At that point in the video, all three times I've gone, sod this. Why are we taking up so much of our time? 3-4 minutes of the video, an hour-long live show. You should be a lot further along, but it's like I say, it's a very arduous task, taking apart someone's misapprehensions of their own bloody claim. But that's what we spend so much time. I remember QE detailing it. The gravity is always going to be the best example of this. Somebody in the comments was like, recently on a gravity video, oh, so you understand that Einstein's correct then? I'm like, no. We have to spend a significant amount of time correcting numpty idiots about their 108-year out-of-date rhetoric to get them to understand that what they should be claiming is Einstein, so that we can debunk Einstein. But if they're claiming Newton, in name only, actually CV Boys, Reverend John Michelle Cavendish gravity, then if they're claiming that, we need to correct them on their own bloody bullshit so we can actually attack the current claim, which is Einsteinian nonsense. So just because I'm telling some fundy who's 108 years out of date about Einstein doesn't mean I actually believe Einstein. It just means I need to get the numpty on track with the up-to-date claim so I can debunk that. But that takes quite a long time.
Yeah, well, that's what was coming. I've just skimmed ahead on screen. He gets onto gravity. And there you go. He's going to show it in Newton's canon. So, yeah, I think that's what was coming, Nathan, just correcting him on his own understanding of current rhetoric.
There's a lot of the word claim thrown about there by him, especially, and we're not really interested in claims, are we? Because it's just a claim. It's just suggesting something without any supporting evidence. So you can claim what you want, can't you? Really, it doesn't matter unless you've got evidence.
Nathan, remember that video?
Nathan, are you saying?
Nathan, remember that video you did? Go ahead, D-Rose.
All together now.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Nathan, basically what you're saying, if you're gonna lie better. Lie with more accurate, fabricating information. Don't lie and sound stupid while you're lying. Make it convincing. Because these guys, they don't even know how to lie. They got two sides of the story with gravity. That right there exposes everything. But let them be what they be. Liars that lie on the lie to lie to lie.
He's not lying. He's a
I don't think they're.
retard.
Yeah, I don't
Voice
think
of
they're lying.
retard. He's not lying. Listen to him. He's just mindless regurgitating wiki
Yeah.
and what he's heard from other baltards. I don't think he's a liar. We're going to
Yeah.
get back into this.
Yeah, I don't think he's a liar either. Hey, you remember, Nathan, you remember Bill Whittle in that video, Make It Stop? At the end, he said, I'm tired of living on this planet. And here
Make it
today,
stop!
Nathan,
Make
after,
it stop!
yeah, so today at the hang on, right at the crescendo, my goodness. Anyway, so here after 3 days of this guy, Nathan's going, make it stop. I'm tired of living on this flat plane.
Yes, you're right. That
Uh,
now we got Nathan saying make it stop. Shut it off. I can't take this guy no more. What do you mean?
Yeah,
You
but
didn't hear all the proofs?
yeah, but Nathan's going to say, I'm tired of living on this flat plane.
Actually, he's
I mean, the guy
tired of
was
dealing with all these numpties.
The only difference is my irritation with one guy isn't the same as the Bill Whittle guy and his irritation with his own mental understanding of a worldview that everyone holds. It's all down to his own cognitive pain at that moment. My annoyance that somebody hasn't got their own religion disseminated correctly on a video is quickly forgotten. It doesn't keep me up at night. You know, I'm not suddenly thinking, oh God, I've got to correct. I can't even remember this guy's name. VoysovReason. I must make sure VoysovReason understands how wrong he is about his heliocentric religion. Oh God, I'm tossing and turning. It's causing me to sweat. No. Bill Whittle is, though, because his entire paradigm's wrong, and that's stressful. It isn't stressful for me that there's idiots out there. This idiot doesn't stress me. It's not make it stop. It's just, God, this is irritating. And I can make it stop by just turning the video off. Bill Whittle can't make it stop by just turning a video off. That's the difference.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Oh, well, I'm hoping you'll all talk amongst yourselves while I get a coffee.
Well, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. Where did everybody go?
I was wondering why it went quiet.
I thought you hung up on me. Hey, but I'm
No, I
gonna go
said
back to
there's a big difference. Okay, go ahead, D-Rose.
I'm sorry. Hey, QE, you right, man. I got to stop giving these guys credit to being competent intellectuals, that just lie. These guys, like you said, they're retarded.
Yeah, they're less than that. They're NPCs.
The wiki parodies. Okay.
They just repeat dialogue void of any critical thinking.
Well,
In other
somebody
news, I
better
saw
come up
Virgin
with something.
Galactic went bust.
Come back.
What are you saying, Neil?
I asked him to come back. I didn't hear what that guy just said.
Oh. Well, that didn't
quantum-
work too well.
Is QE still here?
Yeah.
What about ball busters? Have we decided
Have we decided what?
what the show's going to be about?
Information.
Good show. Excellent. So it's sort of an anniversary.
Anniversary.
100 show.
100 shows.
So what do you call that?
100
100
show.
When was the first show? What was the date?
I have no idea.
Hang on. For your information, it's 100 show.
I remember it well, though.
As much as Nathan, you didn't like this guy's 3-part video that Eli suggested, part 1, I threw in part 2 and 3. The audience got a kick out of it because it's just like Huey said. This guy's just regurgitating everything that's the consensus view, and he's not thinking.
Yeah, but it's good that you go over it so people have something to grasp onto. Because if you just listen to this guy, you lose your mind.
Yeah, but we listen to this guy because we listen to people who listen to this guy. So it was a good show to do because other people will just parrot what this guy says.
Yeah, I'm
One can only hope.
We can only hope.
It's necessary. These shows are necessary.
It's worth covering from a viewpoint of view because the combined total of those 3 videos is over 1 million views. So I still do think it was worth covering, even though the guy's got a small channel.
Yeah, plus they're 6 years old.
All right, they're 6 years old, but you're still hearing the same stuff at Jim Pandas. So it's relevant for right now.
You're still going to Jim Pandas.
Well, I hear what they talk about there. Same thing that's on this video. So some people are just dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say some people, but have you assessed this guy? Do you know that this guy has now turned the corner and realised how stupid the stuff he said? Because it's later on. I thought it was only 3 years, by the way, not 6. No, it is 6 years. Wow.
Even the recent ones will be talking the same garbage, though, won't they? You know, with the same claims.
If the conversation we had had that conversation with him here today, not only would your statement be true for 2 years from now, it would be true for the next breath out of his mouth after you debunk it. In other words, rinse and repeat is standard order. You can't knock their consistency. Even in the face of a complete debunking, they'll still rinse and repeat the exact same claim.
Or they'll just keep double speaking the exact same thing.
Shame they keep making claims but haven't got any evidence. That's the problem they've got.
Yeah, but one deck, they think that is evidence. Everything that this guy, this whole video we just heard for the last, 3 days, he thinks that's evidence.
Yeah, but I said in the show, I do. He was actually just reading from scripts, talking like a cartoon character, and he's probably just doing it for publicity. He's probably not even interested in the subject. He's just copied and pasted Google crap about the globe and heliocentric bullshit and reading it out with a funny voice.
Hey,
That's all he's doing.
I have an idea for you. You should do a poem like that where you're the Baltar, sounding just like this guy, like a cartoon character.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. Shut up, setting that butt in your lip.
Also, we have, to a certain degree, the voice of cognitive dissonance in our chat in the form of Duper Prunes. So I'll just read out one of his last comments as the show is running out. Science is the reason we have math.
Duper. That sounds like Duper. Pooper scooper.
Hey Nathan,
Remember that?
do you have Do you have an idea why early bird number 135 has like record amounts of views compared to everything else? And why I keep seeing it in recommendation lists? Even
What's
though it
that?
doesn't even have a title. I don't
know.
understand.
Just a weird algorithmic thing where you find that one of your shows is just, you're like, why is Flat Earth Debate 864 being recommended here? That makes no sense. Then a month later, oh, Flat Earth Debate 864 again? Why is that getting recommended? You go to the video and you're like, why has it got 3,000 views rather than the usual 1,000 views? That's weird. Then a month later, 864 being recommended. It's got nothing in it of note, right?
Right. Well, no, it's talking about things like grab. It's very mechanical, but I mean, it's not. It doesn't even have a special title. It's like, what? Why that episode? I don't get it. But I see it getting recommended in like my own suggestion list too. It's like YouTube really likes that one for some reason. Wants everybody to see it.
Get out for you, mate.
It's so weird.
Go check it out. But what did it cover? It's show 864. What did it cover? I'm gonna go back and check it out.
64.
That number was made up. No, that number was arbitrary.
They didn't let him go with it.
Yeah, my show number is 135, and when I clicked on it, looked through it, I think it was like talking about gravity and gas pressure. I might have still reified gravity as a thing, but I mean, I don't know. Just stood out to me like 6.4K viewers. Like it even scored higher than our. Hello, can you hear me speaking? It even scored higher than our show, The Mother of All Truth Bombs, Nathan. And that one like really scored high very quickly. For good reason, of course. It was a good show. But this one even outgrew that one.
I don't know.
I don't think Big was serious myself because I've put some more of his quotes in Master D. If you want to read them out, Nathan, they're just ridiculous.
Yeah, read them out. Let's have some fun.
I don't know, Arwen.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we hear you.
Oh, okay. Was the show that y'all were talking about number 864?
No.
Yes.
No, I just made that number up for an example to compare to Arwen.
Okay. Thanks. All right.
Nathan, you're a party pooper.
I do know, however, that 864 was a fantastic show.
They all are, so I agree with
They
that.
all are. Exactly.
It's like that Scarface line when he says, I always tell the truth, even when I lie. Every single show is good, from the first to the most recent.
You want to read these out, whoever's got them presented?
Yeah, I pulled it up. These are like Yoda quotes, isn't it? Imagination is truth when it accurately explains reality.
Yoda quotes.
Yeah, I used to get at the start of Clone Wars episodes. Like one of them, isn't it? Imagination is truth when it accurately explains reality. Wow.
That's deep.
Yeah, Duperpoons is a little weird. I mean, he says some really strange things sometimes.
About this
Some
one.
people think he's MC Toon. Or Mick. What did I say? It's Mick Toon. I can't believe I said MC. You admit to me, Nathan, you poisoned me.
This one needs a better referencing, I think, but I'm not necessarily going to disagree. Actually, France is slightly tilted. Has that got any context?
way?
Paul?
Wait a second. Which way is it?
No,
slightly
sorry,
tilted?
we've got a room on Element where we post these. We call them Numpkin clips or Numpkin quotes, and I ask people to put the source in, but mostly people just paste the image.
Most places at happy hour are tilted, Adam.
Gas go up because of the gravity of the sun. No way.
You know what I found out, guys?
Wait, so he
So
thinks that gas only moves because gravity
you're gonna
pulls
jump
it?
in right after I said, "Do you know what I just found out, guys?" That's the time for our win to go. Like, come on, bro.
Seems
Sorry, I
like he's
could
gonna,
barely hear you.
Eli.
Could barely hear you.
Hey, I go.
So what?
Well,
So
next time,
scratch,
Oh god,
scratchy
stop!
background
Everyone,
sound.
stop! Otherwise, it's going to escalate real quick. Let's just invoke the drama that Eli was hoping for. Oh my god, Eli, what?
Realize that and it's very exciting because for those who are willing to keep an open mind, or those who are really trying to challenge flat Earth, here's the thing: all anti-flat earthers and most people that engage us in this topic are big. And you know what else is crazy? They'll prove it to you in the very next statement that you're gonna claim that they're a big, because that's what they do. They respond to flat Earth generally, and they tie an ad hom attack to that, and they put it on you, and they don't even know you. What does that make them?
And that was our Antarctica correspondent, Eli Freeman. Thank you for that.
He came in nice at the end, Eli. Whatever you said at the end, you came in beautiful.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
I thought Eli was as a deli because at the end of the attack they added ham.
What does that
I just,
make
I
him? I
just,
don't know.
it makes them a bigot, Neil. And it's very, I love that word because people hate that when their true character is exposed. So these guys have been playing this game long enough where they gaslight us, ridicule us, and they get away with it on their own conscience because they think they're doing the globe a service. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're doing the globe a service, stop being a bigot and challenge my claim directly. But before you do that, you have to ask me what my claim is, don't you? You can't just assume it, lest you be a bigot. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but they're not there to clarify things or to understand it. They're propagandists, and
No,
they
call
don't
them what
care.
they are. Bigots. That's the word of the day.
No, I think that just propagandists work even better.
Nah,
They don't.
nobody cares about being called a propagandist. They think that's what we are. But we can call them a bigot and actually have evidence of that in 2 seconds of calling them a bigot.
Eli, sounds like you had an experience with a bigot recently.
Well, I thought of, a way to expose them. Like, because there's no point in actually trying to engage them with real conversation because all they're going to do is ignore what you say and they're going to treat you in bigoted fashion. I said, hey, if I made a post saying it's interesting that, I left you guys because I heard something that Nathan said, and he inspired my post on Facebook. And the post went as follows: I like how I correct people for what they say directly, citing sources and et cetera, but I love how Globe Earthers correct Flat Earth in addressing me in general bigoted fashion, but are rarely willing to challenge what I say or what I rebut directly. It only just exposes the truth of it all.
It could be your sound. It could be your audio. I mean, as a stream of consciousness or whatever you call it, Freeman GPT really is convincing. We just have to work on the sound, and then everyone will respect you as a real person.
He's making
Yeah,
fun
for
of
sure.
you, Eli.
I know, but it's true though. My audio, I mean, I could buy $200 headphones. Nothing works. I don't know.
Yeah, but
I
you
know
were coming in good, and then all of a sudden you went back to Antarctica.
Pull the string. Pull it taut. Pull the string taut before you talk into the cup.
Anyway, I'll post some screenshots, all right?
Pull a string. It's got to be nice and taut when you're speaking to the cup. I remember that from second grade.
I think that's a
I'm
canned
moving on then
statement.
with the last two papoons. This is a good one.
Just
Space
can
only
I-
attracts.
Can you not interrupt
gases.
Adam's mumbling, please?
question.
You know what I mean? The mic not there. Everybody sounds shocking. Is that better?
Yes.
That's a space only
Well,
attracts
Adam,
gases.
Adam, that was classic. So Eli's mic doesn't work. You don't face your mic and you go, everybody's sound is shocking.
Yeah.
My sounds work.
The scientific
Is it
method.
is it my internet or is it the audio? Because if this sounds better, it's just my
You
headphones.
sound good
You
now.
sound great now.
What's your mic?
Okay, it's just these Beats headphones that are absolutely garbage.
Is that Eli? It's like it's come back from the dead.
Like that? I'm sorry.
So check it out. I posted in the chat, right? I posted in the chat some screenshots, and somebody by the name of Kathleen says, "Well, I just read some of the comments on your post, and they are anything but bigoted. Now pick a side, flat or globe, and stick to it." The very comment right after hers was "Gotta lie to flirt." If that doesn't prove my point, I don't know what does.
Yeah, that's fair.
But still, I think that propagandist really does apply even better than just bigot, because I mean, what the hell's wrong with being bigoted? Okay, but they're propagandists. They actively ignore information and basically put out an example of how to not understand it and keep ignoring it. Because you can just lay down something in utter detail, and then right when you're finished, they're going to ask a question about it that has been answered elaborately even before they asked it, like you didn't say anything. This is a pattern I'm really noticing. They all do it. They ask a basic question that you've already answered. Every time you finish, they always do this. Every time. All of them.
Eli said it's bigotry.
Well, hang on. Arwen said, what's wrong with being a bigot? What the heck does that mean?
Well,
Yeah, Owen.
I freaking hate Globers. I'm very much bigoted against them.
No, but see, but see that's true. But the only reason you hate them is because they've been a bigot and they haven't listened and everything you just detailed. That's the point. Because they don't care what you have to say because they're bigots.
Well, I don't care to specify why I'm bigoted against them. I wish they all just left this world somehow. Really, I hope that this delusional mindset just disappears. That's the thing.
Make it stop. Make it stop comes in many forms, it seems like.
I was just thinking the same thing. Are you saying make it stop, Owen?
They are, and wouldn't a propagandist would have to be actively putting out propaganda? I don't think they're even aware what they're saying is propaganda.
Oh, so you need to be aware of your propaganda to be propaganda.
You both stop. This is going to cause an argument. Stop.
They just apply it.
No, that's going to cause an argument. I could just tell how quickly that'll descend. You're both right. No, just people repeating propaganda. Number one, Arwen's correct. That's still propaganda. But them being consciously or unconsciously aware of whether or not they are disseminating it doesn't change the nature of the propaganda. That's Arwen's point, right? But it's still propaganda.
Can
Right, but it's also the way they do it. Hold on. Let me finish. I'll leave it to you. It's not just the information, it's how they apply it. It's applied in a propagandist way, in a conscious procedure to manipulate. Now, they might not consciously even know that is what they're doing, that manipulation, but they are doing it, and they're doing it systematically. It's like there are a bunch of psychologists just trying to screw everybody over.
Okay, it was Mr.
But
Palmer's.
they're also really stupid, and they don't really know what they're doing.
Mr. Palmer
But they're
replied,
doing that.
it was, no, sorry, I keep thinking you've got to the end and you haven't. Sorry, Arwen.
I'm done.
Mr. Palmer, did you want to respond to that?
Oh, I absolutely 100% agree. I was just curious as to whether or not it's fair that we're calling them propagandists if they're not aware that they're propagandists, but very well it could be.
In the ist bit is wrong. That I should have strapped on the end. Yeah, it is propaganda, the information that's being disseminated by someone repeating it who has fell victim to it. But they are a victim of propaganda when they repeat it. They aren't the
Well said. Well
propagandists.
said. They're more victims.
Hold on. If you repeat it, you own it.
Yes,
Right?
that's
I thought that
correct.
was the
Yes,
standard.
yes. Publish and be damned is also still true, Neil. Yes, that's still true. You take ownership of it the moment you parrot it. That's correct.
That wasn't, as I was understanding Eli's point. If I could maybe just read the definition of bigot. I think I have a good point, Eli. So, bigot, a person who is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or fraction, especially one who is prejudiced against or antagonistic towards a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group.
Ooh,
Yes, very good.
that is juicy,
so they
isn't
are
it?
to a that's a really good definition. Just give props to Eli. Yeah, bigot. Good word.
All right. I guess that bigot is a really called for word then. Yeah.
Definitely.
There you go.
Very suiting. Just very suiting.
It's really bigot of you, Arwen, to admit it.
I just thought I'd put that out there because I like using the tools that you guys give me. You know, the fallacious reasoning index, the actual facts about the globe index, the I can now add, words that hurt without being unreasonable. Because the moment that they're unreasonable, I'm like, no, you're a bigot. They're thieving. You should see the hundreds of comments that I have already. I
Although
just posted it.
that said, I might have been a bit too premature with my credit giving to you. I've just got a message from Brian. Apparently, he was defining and using the word bigot 2 weeks ago. So, strictly speaking, Brian should get the credit.
Oh, that's
It's worse
okay as
than
long
that.
as we can still use the word.
It's worse than that. Arwen actually stole Brian's idea.
Not before it was telepathically stolen from Arwen.
Correct. But bigot is the right word.
Yeah,
Good
well,
one,
I
Eli.
can't own all ideas. You got to spread it around a bit. So you just got to wait for those. They're eager enough to get the ideas before they actually come out, and let them steal it, and then think that they got away with it.
Okay. In your world
By
of
the
Arwen,
way-
I'm sure that's true.
You
By
don't
the way,
even
be-
understand what I just said, Nathan.
Yeah, I
Hold
do.
on, be prepared.
People can accept on the grapevine
Feed me
those
back.
ideas before they get published by you and just thank them for your omnipotent nature in terms of disseminating these ideas and allowing your spirit to pass through them for them to disseminate it before you did. Yeah, I get what you were saying.
Okay, I take it back. You
But I
do
mean,
get it.
I mean, guys, like, could you imagine a more fitting word?
Than
I mean,
bigot?
because I knew what it meant, but I didn't know the definition was going to read that well.
Well, be careful, Eli, because what's coming our way is the Etherites again, and they are bigots
Don't do
as
that
well.
this week. Don't do that this week, Neil. Don't
And
do
they're
that.
supposed to be
Hold
flat
on.
earthers.
Don't
So
do
is
that,
bigot-
Neil. Don't do
Don't-
that this
Don't
week.
just decry
Don't do
it.
that.
Some people are scared of bad news. What makes you say that, Neil? Fascinating that it is, clearly.
The Etherites are coming back. I'm not
Yeah, I heard the
specifically
claim.
saying who.
I heard the claim. What because you know where you are?
Because he wants it.
No,
That's
I
why.
don't want
That's
it.
why I'm saying don't do
Yeah,
that.
you do, Neil.
Because
You want
because the
something to
response
fight.
because the detailed response to you, Nathan, after having said that, is not going to be anything good. That's why I said just stop.
Well, you don't even know what I'm talking about. Whatever you're assuming, you're wrong.
My studio lights are exactly the same shape as a poo emoji.
Well, I can't believe Neil just became a bigot.
It's just Neil getting restless. The Neils are getting restless. It's springtime. They're
That's
eager
not
to start
true.
attacking idiots, right?
I
So
think- listen,
you secretly want
He's been
the
rumpused.
Etherians to come back, don't you, Neil?
He's
So
not
you
getting a
can attack
chance
them
to.
again.
When he's not getting a chance to substantiate his claim so far. So Neil, I've asked twice. What exactly makes you say that? Is there something that you can substantiate your claim with?
yes, I've been hearing some things, how wrong we actually are, and how ether is going to be proven.
Going to be.
Okay, well,
Hold on. Future tense. Going to be future tense proven.
Right. Through experimentation, there's going to be a proof of the ether.
Well,
Okay,
that's what we
so
asked.
why
What's
would we
the
have
observed
any
phenomenon?
objection
What's
to
the
that,
observed phenomenon?
Neil?
Yeah, perfect. Someone from the Discord server's already way ahead of us. Say that again, whoever said that. You bang on.
What's the observed phenomenon?
Perfect. We just need to establish that.
No, Neil. Why would we have any issue if somebody brought us experimentation?
We
I look
wouldn't,
forward to it.
Adam.
I would encourage people to do so because that's what's required, okay, to demonstrate.
You're right.
But as we
You're
sit right now, there is none.
I agree 100%. And we're right. When it comes to do it through experimentation, you show me ether, I'm all with you.
I'm not a bigot, but I do have certain standards of proof.
I was gonna make a distinction right now. Me calling out an idiot doesn't make me a bigot if I've also proven that if he himself is proven to be an idiot and I'm calling him out off of those premises alone, then I'm not a bigot. But if you call someone a bigot, you don't even know what their argument is. They never made an argument to you. All they said was, hey, I'm a flat earther. I want to know some more information in this group. And everyone goes, oh, you're a dumb flirt. What do you think that is?
No, it's right. I totally agree. Eli's essentially saying we have to apply a higher standard to ourselves. If we're going to rise above the crap, then we have to apply that standard and not go around calling people bigots before they've even made a claim. If they make a claim, decry you, shoot you down, do all the things that was just listed in the definition by Adam, then you can call them a bigot because they are.
Okay.
I have a question,
when the
Neil.
ether wars
But before we
were
move
going
on, sorry, I just want to keep it on subject, right? On topic, rather. So if you look in Master B,
It
I'll
has
just show
to
the
do with it.
audience. See, my sheer does look like the poo emoji. Just white. See that? Fascinating stuff.
Neil, what have you been listening to that gives you this impression that they're going to scientifically prove it? And I'd like to comment after you say something.
Well, in
You
that
can
party,
concede too, Neil. You
That was
can
Neil. He's
concede.
asking Neil.
Wait, I'm going to start piping on
Oh,
now.
God.
too.
Arwin latches onto these situations every time. Neil. Go ahead.
In that case, Eli, you are right, and I will not expand on it.
What?
Wait a minute. I want you.
Then we
I
can
want you to
disregard it.
expand on it.
Claims without evidence can be disregarded.
Not this week. It's too early.
More like
All right. Well, here's my point. If you think that a certain group of people are going to present scientific proof of ether when the same certain group of people said that science doesn't prove anything, I'm having a problem understanding the whole thing.
You got another problem. Can anyone identify the other problem with that
what's ether?
statement? Not that it's yours.
I don't know. Is the problem taking place here or in counter space?
No. The problem is scientific proof of ether. No. That's one step beyond. What's ether?
Yeah.
Demonstrate that. Then you get into the cause and effect relationship. Scientific evidence with it.
Spot on. Spot on.
Well
the guy,
said.
there's somebody, I can't remember who from Discord, said exactly that. They're like, no. Step one, what's the phenomena we're going to be talking about? So somebody from Discord already said that. And they were spot on.
What's the IV?
Who was that?
So in other words, what's the IV? That's the only thing you have to say. You don't have to answer to anything else or with anything else.
You mean what's the DV?
No, step one.
No, you
No,
mean
you
what's
don't get to the
ether?
DV. No, you just step one. What's the phenomena? What are we looking at? Well, in this idea of counter space, blah blah blah. No. Show me something happening. It's like back with my 6-year-old can understand this. Something out the window that's occurring. Is counter space occurring? Is relative density disequilibrium occurring? Well, if it is, you can science it. If it isn't, you can't.
Guys,
Well, it's being
it's worse
tied in
than.
with
Hold on.
gravity.
Hold on.
Just on that,
It's
Nathan,
worse
though.
than
Sorry.
that
Just,
because you're all
Hold on, Arwin,
assuming
just-
that
just one
they
sec.
know about the scientific method, that they remembered it, that they're going to apply it like that. If you ask natural phenomenon, they might be like, oh yeah, whatever. We're not using that scientific method.
Well, ignorance is no
So you're
excuse.
all assuming that they get that part.
Yeah, no excuse.
Hold on.
Hold on. We've got one deck
You're
who wants
wrong.
to get a word in, then we can go to Adam, then Neil. One deck, go ahead.
Then Eli.
Okay, I forgot what I
Then
was going to say. Basically, I was trying to say, are we right in saying then that there is some natural phenomena that that can't be put through the scientific method.
What would that phenomena be?
Well, like moon phases or tides.
No, we're talking about etherites and whether or not Neil's right.
No, but I'm on about natural phenomena and the scientific method. So we're saying we need to observe a natural phenomena, but there's some natural phenomena that can't be put through the scientific method, isn't there? Quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, am I correct in saying that? Not all natural phenomena.
It depends who you ask. I have in the past,
or isn't.
I have in the past argued this point and been cast down and laughed at for making the opposite point when it comes to entropy. Right? Entropy is an effect that's only described with the law known as the second law of thermodynamics. That description of an effect that occurs always, in my estimation, is capable of being put through the scientific method for you to vary and manipulate presumed causes of the effect. Now, based on that, a 2-week discussion between people far smarter than I ensued, where they established that what we were describing in terms of relative density disequilibrium was a second order effect of entropy. But you can't isolate out all other effects to cause something that occurs always. Therefore, sits outside of the purview of scientific method, because you can't isolate everything around it to induce it when it's not already occurring. It will always be occurring. It's a law of nature. So to get a situation where you stop it happening, to isolate it, and then cause it with a cause, is to say that you could be God. You could start the process of entropy. That is the beginning of our world as we know it. So yeah, at the end of a very lengthy discussion from people who are much smarter than I can say yes, although I didn't initially think this was the case. Some things do sit outside, some phenomenon sit outside the purview of science.
Can I jump the line to call a fallacy?
Thanks. Go ahead.
Not on me, you won't.
Maybe not outside
on
the
you.
purview of science, but beyond the wit of man.
Yeah, beyond the physical limitations of men. In other words, we have no control over the supernatural starts of our known existence. That's not within our purview.
I wonder what else then, maybe saying entropy that can be put through the method. What else?
No, it can't. No. It can't. It can't be put through the method.
Right,
Entropy can't, because at the start of that process of decay, if you oversimplify it, what's the start of the process? Well, if you're a heliocentrist, it's the Big Bang. But for us, knowing what the answer to the ontological primitives is, what is the only cause for the information at the start of it all? A knower. In order to have anything solidify in actuality, you must have had information to begin with. And you can't have information without a knower. Therefore, the first cause of everything related to the decay that follows, that's entropy, starts with a knower. Well, that, again, is outside my purview. I can't get to the beginning. I can't rewind time. And I can't stop time from elapsing. The arrow of time is continuous. That's entropy. I can't stop it to start it by way of manipulation of a presumed cause. That's not possible.
Well, this is what I was thinking, because there's quite a lot of that. I was just wondering.
Hold on.
I was wondering.
Can you guys hear me and One Deck having a conversation? Thank you. Go ahead, One Deck.
I was just wondering then, because I can't think any. What has been proved using the scientific method? What observed natural phenomena has been put through the scientific method?
Scurvy.
To come up with. Sorry?
Scurvy, if you want a nice, simple example. I mean, we could get into various different experiments and germ theory, but that will trigger a lot of people in my audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not impervious to fraud. So, you know.
No. Arwin's right. Let me just give, before we carry on with One Deck, Arwin's comment's correct. That doesn't mean that when you talk about actual established cause and effect reasoning that will give you things like quantum mechanics, that doesn't mean you can't have quantum gravity follow, which is total bullshit. And the same is true with germ theory. Arwin's correct. Doesn't mean it's just because you've got scientific validation for something, doesn't mean that someone will take that and steal it and apply it to whatever bullshit they're peddling and put the words next to it. That's true, Arwin. It doesn't change the fact that the scientific validity for germ theory, that's a fact. And the same is true, but with less controversy with scurvy.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not exactly what I meant. I actually meant quite literally that the experiment itself was fraud and it's never been repeated. And if you try to repeat it, you will not have the right result because they never
experiment?
isolated the variable.
Which
and that's a
experiment?
fact.
Be more specific.
I'm
You think it was just one experiment?
That's why I'm
Germ
asking.
theory.
Hold on, QE. That's why I'm asking him. Which experiment? Be specific.
Can I just throw the fallacy out there before we?
You can't. I'm talking. I'm in the middle of a conversation with one deck. Everybody else is in the queue. Arwin's jumped the queue, but with a valid point. But now he's expounding upon that point to say that no, the experimental setup's invalid. Well, as much as I want to get back to one deck, I'm going to stick with Arwin just temporarily. And as much as QE's right in saying, oh, you think it's just one experiment? Yeah, Arwin specifically said you can invalidate the experiment in reference to germ theory, and I want to know what he means. That's not unreasonable.
Yeah, the germ theory aspect that bacteria, when you basically inject them isolated as an isolated influence, that causes this said disease. It doesn't.
Where's that postulated?
It only start. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Shut the fuck up.
What's the name of that experiment?
Yeah, what's the name of that one?
That's
It's the original postulate. It's original Cox postulate. That's what that was.
Postulate.
You was right on this, Nathan.
Cox postulate is you start with the disease, you extract what you think is the bacterial thing that's causing the disease, you culture that disease, you then take that disease that's been cultured, put it into another organism and see if you end up with the same infection. That's Cox postulate. It's a very much more robust than that and requires validation within itself that to prove which disease and what is expressing it.
Right, but when it was originally tested, if I may, because you're right, thank you for putting it down elaborately, more correctly. But the point is they never exclusively injected the bacteria as organisms exclusive. They always added in the goo, and that is a habit that's even been standardized in the production of
goo being aerosol.
medical procedure.
Is that what you mean?
Just Adam and Arwin, please. Everybody else, just Adam and Arwin. Thank you.
In every experiment, I don't.
Preferably not at the same time. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, just to express Owen's point of rebuttal, then seems to be that some kind of exo product is included in there. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Well, it is, though. It is absolutely true that they added something and they've never succeeded in proving isolated, just the pure bacteria, and injecting that, it never caused a disease. Just like you put that stuff on a muscle with a horse and it will never get sick.
Let's just work with that then, and then just work with, say, simple prevention of smallpox with taking cowpox plus. Yeah. So are you now saying that it is still a communicable disease, but in terms of it to be transferable, both the exudate and the bacterium itself is required in the transfer to ensure the transmission of the infection?
Well, that's never physically been tested because they didn't get to that point. But yes, I have a strong suspicion, if I may finish my sentence.
No, I just because I just cited you an example and you've said it's never been proven.
Okay, then we don't have this discussion.
I started the statement with a citation of proof, and then you've just said no.
You asked me a question.
I asked you
and then I answered the question, and then I tried to explain, and then you interrupted me like you're doing right now.
I'll start it again then, because you're not answering it. If I take the prevention of smallpox from the initial discovery of cowpox conferring immunity via the transfer of both bacteria and pus through the milkmaids, yeah? So they're getting what you say requires both products. That's the cited example that you just said didn't exist. It is. That's the beginning.
No, that's not what I said.
No, but it's an example that rebuts what you just did say.
Yeah, but
there isn't an example of that.
If I can get to the point, my point is it's not the bacteria doing it is the toxic goo that they add. That's the thing that actually causes the disease, and you can't cure it.
How do you know
can't do that?
How have you got a citation to demonstrate that it's not the bacteria that causes bacterial disease? it's the goo.
I'll have to do some digging for that with my sources, like my dad and my healer that really have books about this shit.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll ask them for a specific example. Because
Okay,
it
that's a
has been
no for
tried. They
now.
have
That's a
extracted
no.
bacteria exclusively
don't
without
keep
any
going.
added goo.
Just stop.
And oh
Just
my God,
stop.
no.
Stop.
Screw you
Stop.
guys.
That's a no.
At the point that you say no, just keeping on waffling for the next 2 minutes doesn't change that Adam's got his answer. Yeah, no, that's right, Adam. Carry on.
These rage quit because this is German new medicine.
Oh, what?
Non-proven.
That was a really decent discussion till he rage quit. At the point that he has to concede no, he disappears. That's typical bloody Arwin. That's not very
I
fair,
wanted to
Arwin.
find out what the goo was.
Right, one deck. Back to you. One
Sorry
deck.
about.
I was going to go
sorry about
to,
Cosmo,
just because
what?
it was easier, one deck. I was going
Hold
to go
on, there was a line that I
My
didn't even-
God. Jesus wept. Shut up. One deck.
Oh.
One deck.
Hiya.
Thank you. Now, I was going to go to something a lot less controversial, which would have been, what did I say, scurvy, for what has been put through the scientific method. Well, rather than going around the reeking with a lot of controversy with germ theory, just go to something a lot more simple. You know, vitamin C is a lot more simplistic to explain how the scientific method's been explained and saved lives in medicine.
So what was the natural phenomena with that then? Just the illness?
Death.
Scurvy.
All right.
Death. People dying. Pretty serious phenomena.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Now,
Long time
would
at
it be the
sea,
vitamin
but-
C itself curing the scurvy, or is the vitamin C
Specific.
inhibiting something in the body to let it fight the scurvy?
It's the lack thereof. You're right, it does sound confusing in the hypothesis when we oversimplify the hypothesis for the purposes of education. When we oversimplify it to if A, then B, or if A, not B, it sounds like the contrapositive, i.e. null, is being achieved when you say the lack of vitamin C is the cause of scurvy. No, it just doesn't formulate into our oversimplified version of a hypothesis for the purposes of education. It doesn't alter the fact that the cause of scurvy is a lack of vitamin C, as established through systematic experimentation, based on a hypothesis that the lack of vitamin C, and it doesn't even have to be vitamin C, you can vary and manipulate anything. So in this case, if you said orange consumption, yeah, or citrus fruit consumption, you don't have to know that it's a citrus fruit. Consumption of this, what's that? I don't know, some round thing we pick off trees. I'm going to vary how many of them they consume. Fine. Doesn't matter that the constituent part of that thing you've pulled off a tree was vitamin C. That doesn't matter. You varied it. It changed the outcome of the effect that was happening. The men weren't dying after they consumed them. Does that make sense? Still validated in same hypothesis construction based scientific experimentation to validate the cause of an effect.
Okay, there's a line.
That's it. That's the end of the statement. One deck's asking, what has science done for me?
Guys.
Okay. Did Neil or anyone else want to go before I go?
No, go ahead, Eli.
Yeah. So the fallacy that I wanted to point out, which for me stops. Oh, let me change my mic. So the fallacy for me that basically stops all bickering and conversation is, and it doesn't have to be another flat earther or glober. It's just in general. Is equivocation, because they'll say this is science, and then I'll go, okay, what's the epistemology? And they'll give me the steps. I'm like, well, that's not the steps of the scientific method. So you're using the word ambiguously to suit your own purposes. That would be equivocation. Just end it right there. I don't have to explain this, do that, do the third. No.
Yeah, when they say science, it's taking the word and implying it has a different meaning. So in their world, science means a just so story. In actual definition, you're talking about the scientific method when you're talking about natural science. And that's exclusively the subject we deal with here, isn't it? the physical and natural world. Well, that falls under the exclusive bracket of the natural sciences, therefore the singular scientific method. When they say science, they don't mean that. They've got a whole different meaning that they're going to define it with. So yeah, it is equivocation.
Nathan, isn't
Yeah,
that
they just told you the whole point was, well, we're not using that method. For those that say that, well, okay.
Yeah,
isn't
But which method? They're also claiming there's multiple scientific methods too, simultaneously.
Yep. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah. Credit to QE. This is why he says define it. Am I right, QE?
Yes.
I don't know if that would be the single credit I ascribe to this entire conversation, but for the fact that QE exists on this scene, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all.
Well, I remember when I first heard that on your show, and I thought that, we sometimes overlook it, but we do it all the time when we're in a struggle with another human being, when we're trying to get clarity. But when I heard it put to the flat earth and the arguments that exist here, I use it everywhere, because now it's like I want clarity in everything before it gets hot, between people. It's like, okay, define what you're saying, please, because I'm not following.
Well, that's true, but does it alter whether or not we should erect a 20-foot statue of Quantum Eraser and how often we should worship it?
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I was just suggesting maybe a couple of more arrows in his quiver or something.
That was decided long ago at the planning stage. He has 20.
Okay.
That was a very pointed response with the quiver thing, by the way.
Oh, good one. I'm trying to figure out what happened to the order of the way we were supposed to go.
I asked you, Neil.
I don't know if Neil should be piping too much. He made a baseless assertion that we were going to get somehow attacked on all sides by Ethereans in the not-too-distant future.
Because you didn't give me a chance to get back. You started going off on another tangent, which they both tie into each other. That's what I was trying to say. The bigots and Ethereans.
I think you need clarity on what you're claiming, Neil, if I may. Is new evidence going to be presented, whether it's scientifically valid or not, from the Ethereum camp? Seems to be one very different thing to they're going to attack us, as you seem to have been summarized. Which one is it?
No, I didn't mean personal. I'm just saying the argument's coming back. But this time with validation.
And
well, we know you
I look forward to reviewing the validation.
Hello, just Adam and Neil.
So just to reiterate the point, to be non-bigoted, Dan, I look forward to seeing this new validation. If somebody's bringing something new, it would be bigoted of me. I mean, maybe it's going to be a bag of ether to start with. That'd be a good point. Yeah, but until I've seen it, I can't ridicule it, can I?
Would it not be a bag of counter space?
What's that do?
Well,
start for 10,
It's
isn't
going to
it?
be counter space. It's going to be all of that. But it's going to. Well, actually, there is going to be a direct assault on the people that refuted it. Let's say.
Oh, you missed it.
I was going to say, what is this? Are we back in Nam? What's going on?
Well, he's going to.
I hang out with the Ethereans all the time. I have not been attacked once. I am well liked, and I like some of them. It is what it is.
I bet they bring it out in a container.
Sorry, did you just tell us that you're a terrorist sympathizer?
Yeah, I was going to say, we know that, Eli. We've got eyes on you.
Well, if you don't inject the goo with the bacteria, nothing will ever get fixed, will it?
Gotcha.
Bring that up.
I'm right.
I'm apparently now a rumpusing, bigoted dickhead and a medical shill.
Oh wow, no. See, look, the thing is, Neil, like, you know how I'm comfortable because I don't have a problem with people stating things that they don't claim are science. But if you start trying to wiggle it in, I'm gonna go, well, what's your epistemology? Don't put the word science to it if it doesn't follow a specific method. If you're gonna say science or you're gonna say evidence, I'm gonna ask you for your epistemology first. I don't care about your story. I just want to know how you got to it. And then I can,
after that groundwork has been laid and everybody, you know, here's my position, I'm like, okay, well, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I don't have to reject it. I don't have to accept it. I've asked them what their epistemology is. They've explained how they've come to their reasoning. And I can just go, okay, whatever.
If I can just say something, because I couldn't speak earlier. What Adam, he asked Arwen to prove a negative. It's the burden of proof is on the people who want to say something is pathogenic to prove it.
That was what was being discussed, wasn't it, with germ theory? So it was then Arwen said that was false and decided to criticize it. So the burden was on him because he got to the point of making a claim that it wasn't the bacteria, it was the exudates. Now if he's being looks into it, he may find that they cause some of the symptomatic problems you may find with disease. Wouldn't dispute that. Who's making the exudate?
Yes,
and Nathan made the point earlier. Nathan made the that you can't say the moon is a sphere, nor can you say it isn't a sphere. That's dangerous territory. Or when they're saying something isn't something, that's dangerous territory.
He did also say that, that he was denying that followed the scientific method to make the accusations of what he said. He also said that he knew that they didn't just isolate the bacteria. And when I asked him what in all of them, he stumbled. So it was Arwen's claim.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen, just back up Arwen, I haven't seen any evidence that they've gone through the scientific method because they tend to be correlation studies and often they don't even do controls. But this isn't really YouTube friendly, so Nathan, so it's best not to go into it.
Give him my experiment. Give him my demonstration, Nathan.
Yeah, you go ahead.
No, give it to him. I sent it to you. I think it was weeks ago, though, right?
I don't know. Sorry, you'll have to remind me. I'm making a thumbnail, so I'm only paying half attention.
You're making a thumbnail.
I
So
am.
Nathan asked me this, and I had a sorry disposition. Hold on a second. It might take a few minutes. I don't know if these guys can wait.
Well, while you're doing that, I'd like to comment on something. Adam, I'd like your response to this as well as Paul's. So just because some sector of that community doesn't use control variables and does a sloppy job, that shouldn't cast a bad light on the ones that do it properly, correct?
No, but I haven't seen evidence of that. I mean, if you remember Patrick Gunnels, Nathan, he said he'd used your style in debating. And what do you think he was debating? This is his topic. And he's probably best placed to explain it as he's a presenter as well as a researcher. And he goes through it all, explaining how they have no evidence.
Paul, when you say you haven't seen any evidence, I'm
This
sorry.
is the virus transmission he's talking about.
No, it's everything. Everything pathogenic.
Wow. Well, then I would challenge that there's no evidence. That's a very bold. He'd have to demonstrate that in some way. It's hard to see what he would be presenting as.
Yeah, I would be happy to see a paper, look at the method, see how they've done it. Absolutely.
Oh, you ain't gonna need a paper. As soon as I find it, we're gonna have you do it, Paul.
Paul, let me get back to you. When you say you haven't seen any evidence of that, are you saying that nothing that's been presented after whatever they've gone through and labeled as this is, again, we're talking germ theory. So Adam, I'm gonna need your help here. Like what has come out about germ theory that has worked and there's evidence by it working? Is there anything come to mind, Adam?
If we look at how we identify disease, it will be through that initial development by Koch. How do you isolate? You can then look at the work of Pasteur and you can look at these are if we take just bacteria for cheese, how do we make cheese if we're gonna and all of these kind of biological processes that use bacteria? How does your cult know how to make their blend of their special digestive bacterial yogurts? What if they're not isolating and culturing them? What's the benefit? Yeah,
that's not in question that they can isolate bacteria.
This is
or bacteriophages, for example, which are supposed to be the same size as the particle we won't mention.
Relevance. So we are able to identify it. We can see.
I'm
that
not
if we
talking
try
about
and-
nothing
we see if
existing.
we
I'm
take
talking about
these-
it being pathogenic, Adam. As I say, this isn't really a YouTube topic, which is why I never bring it up.
It's absolutely fine. It doesn't need it. And this is the point I'm trying to separate. Why you're pulling it towards that more controversial topic when there's plenty of 150-year-old evidence that we could discuss that would demonstrate empiricism.
I haven't seen it.
I'll wait for
But just
Keith.
in isolating and culturing it.
Just because you haven't seen it doesn't make it not exist. Here's what I want you to do, Paul.
This is the weird response I've heard when this topic comes up. I haven't seen it. I remember it with John Savage. I haven't seen it. As if that's for me to then go away. It's for you to go and show a paper and then demonstrate there's no empiricism in it. If you're going to make that claim.
Which can easily be done. 99% of the stuff that you'll find isn't backed, and you can pull it apart. Like I was moaning on the show about the guy as an individual and his claims, misapprehensions, or whatever about what he's claiming, whether or not it stands in line with the actual claim, how wrong he is, and then how wrong the original claim is. That's a long process. Now, if you take an original paper and go, this is wrong, and then you show how it's wrong, that will apply to the original paper and could be true for 99% of the stuff in medicine. And I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I'm just saying that's likely to be true. But when you arbitrarily and unilaterally apply that to all, in this case specifically germ theory, then that's not for Adam as his burden because somebody asserts that they haven't seen anything to back it. Now, if Adam's going around saying this is scientifically validated, and you turn around to him at that point and say, prove it, then the burden is on him.
Yeah, I would like anyone to present a paper. But as I say, going through it on the show is not a good idea.
Send a
Which is
paper.
why Patrick
You
is
have
on
history and biology. Have you ever taken biology classes in the past?
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
Let me just clear that up because you said it a couple of times. There's nothing wrong with talking about this. None of what we're talking about so far is controversial as far as YouTube's terms of service. There's no medical disinformation. Quite the contrary. We're debating about the validity of the information that's available to all, as opposed to debating something about COVID, which potentially, depending on how far it goes, could become controversial and could offer up the opportunity for panel members to offer up medical misinformation. We're not doing that. We haven't even got close to the line yet. So don't worry.
If we go into medicine, then we're missing the point. We're trying to find out whether there is empiricism and scientific method when we are dealing with bacteria, as far as I'm aware. That seems to be the claim from the New German medicine side, that there's no empiricism with regards to how we've discovered communicable disease, that there is no science in it. Now, if we then go to medicine, that's a very different thing. It doesn't necessarily, that can be what Paul's saying, correlation, epidemiological viewpoints. That's not science. But what underpins our certainty epidemiology is the underpinning science of some of the discoveries.
When I say I haven't seen it, I mean, as far as I know, it doesn't exist. And as far as I know, a lot of the people who are studying this, they've never found anything that just isolates the bacteria, injects it into the animal.
This is vague, generalized horse shit. Have you ever taken a biology course, sir?
You're not appealing to credentials now, AQE.
No, I didn't appeal to your credentials. I just asked you if you ever taken a simple biology course or higher level biology course. Have you?
No.
No, because I knew that right off the bat. You went to.
Have you ever used a sextant sort of argument? No.
Video, right? And now you're saying, well, I've never seen anything like that. Well, even if we showed it to you, you wouldn't know what the fuck it was.
No need. No need. No need. Let's keep this civil.
Yeah, there is a fucking need.
There's no
Present the paper, we'll look at the method.
You got a paper, you wouldn't recognize it. You wouldn't understand it. Would you? Fuck no.
Let's not.
I'll give you a
stop
simple
swearing
experiment.
At him. Look, this is a reasonable
Give me a
discussion.
simple experiment.
Please,
Where's your
please,
fucking
please,
paper?
calm down. We're getting somewhere. This is useful. We haven't crossed any lines, and we're having a useful discussion. There's no need to disseminate into swearing at him for his lack of knowledge. Okay, if there's an ignorance issue, it can be addressed, but it doesn't need you swearing at him.
It's just contempt for pretender clowns talking out their ass. That's all. Right? Because they heard it from some YouTube video, Pete and Pete, and decide, well, even if we showed it to you, that's okay. I'll give you a simple, you can do this practically. This is what I want you to do. I want you to take some ground meat. Okay? You following that? I want you to leave it out for 24 hours. You can isolate it. Don't let anything else around.
Endotoxins, not by the bacteria itself.
Say again?
It's caused by the
It's
endotoxins
bacteria.
generated by the anaerobic bacteria and not the bacteria themselves. If you can't
made the toxin?
isolate them from the endotoxins, they do not cause
It's too many people talking.
You guys heard
Everyone
of,
stop.
Andrew
Everyone stop.
Kaufman?
Stop. Everyone stop. Paul, can you reiterate your objection? Hopefully uninterrupted.
Yeah. Well, anaerobic bacteria in dead cells in the meat will generate endotoxins, which are highly toxic and will kill you. That's what causes food poisoning, as far as we know.
Right.
So you have to separate that out from the bacteria. If you're saying the bacteria alone goes into someone's body and makes them ill, which is the claim.
What a numpty.
No, that's one small case of food poisoning. Now, as I said, you may get symptomatic response to some of the endotoxins. First of all, what's making those?
Then, yeah, what's making the toxin mediated?
It's the bacteria, right? And a
Yeah.
simple case where that bacteria isn't particularly virulent, all you may get is just a bad case of the shits and you recover. But there are some things, botulinum, for example, that could then go further and could then start to attack your body as opposed to just leaving some residual traces. They're not, this is what's frustrating. You get these cases of statements like this and they're wholly unthought through. And more importantly, they're just attacking little nuances for people to pick up, and then postulating whole new medical routes with absolutely nothing to back them up other than just ridicule conjecture of modern medicine, which I don't hold as unattackable medicine. Yeah, but there are certain parts of it that has empiricism and science, which I want to pull it back to that. Yeah, because that was the initial point. But this stuff, mate, is, as you've presented there, not full in its criticism or its appraisal of what it's saying. And yes, you could make a case that it is the endotoxin in that point. But I would still then fundamentally say, right, what's causing it? And what it is the bacteria. And when we talk about pathogens, we can talk about symptoms or communicable disease. The endotoxin is not being the communicable thing. That's the thing that's causing symptomatics. You need to distinguish those. And there is empiricism behind that level of pathogenic transfer.
No, the claim is that the bacteria goes into your body, starts dividing, and then makes the endotoxin which harms you. And they haven't shown that.
Harms or what about benefits? Would that be?
Hold on, just 1 second, Adam. Please cue with the colour commentary.
I'm sorry, man. I'm out of this Pete shit. Sorry. Go ahead, Adam. You have the patience of Job.
It seems to be a one-size-fits-all thing that's going to happen when you swallow this pathogen, in your understanding, Paul.
The paper where the bacteria was injected into the animal person on its own without a huge soup of endotoxins has never made anyone ill. And that is why people get upset when people mention germ theory on the show, because that is the case. You
That
can
is
disagree me all you
harsh.
like and hand wave dismiss it, but look at the paper.
What caused the endotoxin? Adam, please, for God's sake, what caused the endotoxin?
I wonder how you also would reasonably expect to isolate something that's making something all the time. You can't, can you? You see what I mean? The nature of the claim is like to try and inject an Adam that has no sweat on him, has no oil, skin
I'm not
oil.
saying no, I'm just saying you can't have
Understand? It's a living organism this is a byproduct of it. So it's constantly making it. Yeah. So in a way, the claim in itself is kind of nonsensical because it's a living organism that functions like that. That's part of it. The exotoxins are to make its closer environment
isolated entirely without any endotoxin at all. I'm just saying the ground meat example over 24 hours is not a fair one, because that's not something that you'd experience in your body, because your body is not dead flesh.
What?
Anaerobic bacteria do not spread inside a living body. That's the difference.
What about a tooth infection?
What?
What about a tooth infection?
Aerobic bacteria, which doesn't
No, that's,
create.
that's anaerobic because it's in, there's no direct access. It's anaerobic bacteria that cause a lot of those things, which is why you have to use specific antibiotics that are more potent against anaerobic bacteria.
I understand a little bit about it. When I say a little, I'm saying I don't understand nothing you guys are saying. But from what I gather, Adam is saying it's not like the word bacteria is this catch-all, because then I mean we would have the antidote for good health forever, right? So there's a lot of factors that play a part, but when you look at the details, you can establish the cause and effect in some ways. Whereas the catch-all that you're trying to make it to be is just not the case, and nothing anyone has said is the case anyway. Am I right or wrong in saying that?
Seen it more that the level of critique that's being put by like this German New Medicine doesn't really make any real sense as to what it's critiquing, because it seems to be misinformed when it's critiquing, particularly by that last statement.
I haven't mentioned German New Medicine.
Okay, this, I don't know, what title should we call this? Non-pathogenic transfer of communicable disease.
Well, I'm just saying I don't think it's been proven. I don't think you'll be able to present a paper which shows a scientific method used and is repeatable that shows this. It's a claim they make, but I don't think they can support it.
But that's now been pre-qualified with it has to be just the bacteria with no exudate, which I hope again exemplifies the non-understanding.
That is the difficulty. That is the difficulty, because
it's impossible, isn't it? As I just tried to outline with Mick, it's like not having no skin oils or no sweat. It's a biological nonsense, and therefore the criticism is biologically nonsensical. To use that
I've heard an argument like this before. It's like,
yeah.
So like people have said that that water is conductive, and then others have made the argument not when you take everything out of it, and it's like, well, that's not what we're talking about, is it? So it's like what he's doing is trying to, I guess, in a lack of a better way to put it, take everything out of it.
Not everything. I mean, so we're talking about isolating the bacteria as much as possible, not injecting a toxic soup into animals. Those are the two different things. So I'm not asking for purity in 100% here, because that wouldn't be reasonable. But what they do is not that. They don't do anything reasonable. We're talking a toxic soup, like meat overnight or something like that. When you can't establish whether it's the endotoxin itself or the bacteria, and even if you could establish that, then you've got to prove that it can jump from person to person without the soup. And they haven't done that either.
Paul, does bacteria precede the endotoxin you're talking about, or does the endotoxin precede the bacteria?
It's a waste from the it's a waste from the bacteria. As they eat dead flesh, they make it.
Okay, so the bacteria comes first, then the endotoxin, correct?
Yes. But the suggestion, the claim is that this bacteria gets into your body and then just carries on, killing cells, making endotoxins, making you ill. And they cannot support that claim.
It doesn't necessarily kill cells. It just needs an environment to reproduce. That's what it's looking for, isn't it? And some say very simplified killing cells. Think of a chest infection. It's not killing cells in a chest infection. It's just getting all the nutrients it needs to multiply and grow from the lung cavity and the mucus in there. Now then you get the exudates, which then cause symptomatic issues for you. Yeah, but fundamentally, it's that bacterium and its growth within you, however it's transferred, yeah, that's causing the illness. And the illness is often experienced symptomatically, but it's not necessarily the underlying cause of your symptoms.
Is it safe to say, Paul, without the bacteria, you wouldn't be sick at all with the endotoxins that you're talking about?
Well, see, they've invented this particular method of trying to prove it. It's not what happens in the body. They're claiming it's caused by that, but I wouldn't be able to. I can't.
No. Hang on. Let me be more precise. You just said bacteria precedes it. Adam went on to say that there's different stages of it, like phase changing or another thing comes in. But without the bacteria causing it, none of that other stuff would have happened, is what I'm coming up with.
Yes, but they're claiming that the bacteria is other and comes from outside the body and makes you ill.
So if I go to a Chinese restaurant, eat bad meat, and I come home and I'm just losing it, I can't assess that's because I ate bad meat at the Chinese restaurant?
But yeah, again, that could be that's the endotoxins that they've.
No, but you just said before the endotoxins is the bacteria. So bacteria starts it, then the endotoxins, which no one here is saying isn't a part of it.
Life, the anaerobic bacteria exists to break down dead flesh. So that is the beauty of creation.
No, I don't know if you heard what I said because we were both talking. But my point is that the bacteria must first exist before we get to your point.
Yes, but it doesn't.
Okay, well that settles. Yeah, but then that settles it for me. It doesn't matter what else happens after the bacteria.
Okay,
it could be 500 things that could happen.
Sure, but let me just summarize Paul's point, regardless of if I agree or not. He's saying that even paradoxically, if you can't, as Paul suggests, get to the point where you isolate it enough, then you can't detail how it would occur inside the complex organism because you've isolated it away from it. Now, in Paul's argument, he's saying if you've got something that's putrefied, it's already created this poison as a byproduct of the breaking down process naturally. If you then consume that, that's going to make you ill. Now, if there wasn't the creation of that, then you're talking about non-putrefied meat, which is good meat, presumably, because even though they've both got the same substance in them to begin with, one hasn't started to fulfill its process, and in that process create a toxin that could make you ill. But both still contain the, what were we talking about again? Forgotten the term. Enzyme or something like that. Bacteria. Both contain the same bacteria. So if you're going to assert that the bacteria itself is the cause, when the byproduct of a natural process of the bacteria, if consumed, would be the cause, then you can't blame it on the bacteria because the bacteria is present in something that hasn't putrefied. So therefore, how can you blame it on the bacteria? Is Paul's point, I believe, if I followed along. Have I?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
but what
you have different type of. Then you'd have different type of illnesses. You got the toxin mediated ones, and then you got foodborne infections.
You could
Those
also
aren't
have,
toxin-mediated.
John, couldn't you? You could have that first very simple thing as described by Paul, where yes, the diarrhea, which is a biological response to the toxins for the body to flush it, happens, and nothing else happens. So in that way, the bacteria passes through you. Yeah, it's and it plays a very minor role, other than the production. Or you could get other infections, couldn't you? Legionnaire's disease, which will attack the body. Yeah. And that then might not give you diarrhea that first day. Might have any of the symptoms. Yeah. But later down the line, you'll have problems caused by the bacteria growing inside of you and then creating these oxidates, which will create more symptomatic issues. There's lots of different things you're describing. You can't just simplify it down to that because that analogy works because you can rule out the bacteria because frankly, it wasn't there's no direct effect of the bacteria because that type of bacteria will get destroyed in your gut. It's designed to live in that. I was talking about environments. It's designed to live and thrive in that dead, rotting meat environment. That's why it's specific to dead, rotting meat. That goes into your stomach. It's not going to be like a acidophage type bacteria, which is resilient to hydrochloric acid, can live in that kind of environment. And it's that one, when it gets into you, that it's going to start to replicate in you because that environment's beneficial. I'll give you an example one. Helicobacter pylori. That's the one that lives and resides in you. in your stomach.
Yes, sir.
Ulcer, a big killer of man. So there's a lot. It's very difficult to oversimplify, but environment, longevity, the body's ability to remove all play a role in it, whether or not it can reside within that organism.
Adam, question. When you buy meat, or when we buy meat and we freeze it, or when we buy meat and put it in the refrigerator, the longevity is there because of the coldness. If we just put it outside in room temperature with oxygen at room temperature versus frozen, that delays the bacteria from destroying the meat, like left outside, right?
It freezes it.
Right.
So some of them may survive after freezing. So it may destroy some because of the osmotic pressure, because the water will grow, won't it? It'll get a bit bigger and it'll rupture the cell wall. So it may kill some. Some may have sufficient ability to survive. Yeah. So you still need to be careful with your chicken after you unfreeze it, don't you? Because there's some bacteria on there that can still reactivate after freezing. So they're all different. They all have different coping mechanisms for the nuance they are in.
Right. So when they have vacuum sealers to take all the air out, that makes it last longer.
Well, in the case of aerobic, yeah, that's going to help, isn't it? Because there's no air for the bacteria as part of their cycle.
And you don't get, or it's minimal oxidation too. So that's a factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, hold on. Go ahead, Paul. Was there anything else?
Well, I mean, they're claiming, aren't they, that the bacteria comes from elsewhere? And I would say, where does it come from, and how did they establish that?
Okay, good question. So, Legionnaire's disease you covered, Adam. Something that people may be familiar with more so than the other one that I couldn't even try and repeat. Can you just say the word again, because it was beautiful?
Helicobacter pylori.
That's the one. But if we stick with Legionnaire's, can you answer his question? Go ahead.
But look, again, no. I think, to be perfect, in terms of some of us, I'd have to do a lot of research. I think, or just to go and find it off the top of my head. I can remember the causation bacterium. But to go back and say, right, well, how is it communicable? I don't know.
Sorry, you may have already given enough.
Of,
sorry to interrupt you. You may have already given enough of an answer. You're saying that although you don't have it to hand, fine. No one's going to expect you to have this as a pinch. You can go and get it if you needed to. But you're saying that you do remember there being a cause and effect relationship, and the cause being something real. Bacteria is real. Something that you can have as your independent variable in the hypothesis. That would be the presumed cause in the predictive statement. And it's physically capable of being varied and manipulated by a researcher, and to your memory, it was varied to establish it as the cause. In this case, that particular bacteria, correct or not correct?
Yeah, I think I could probably go and find clinical papers, particularly in the development.
Okay. Yes, it's good. For Paul's benefit, again, this isn't my subject. Definitely yours, definitely QE's, and by the sounds of things, definitely Paul's subject interest. So can you provide that to Paul? Because then you can show him where he hasn't found to date a cause and effect supposition validated through experiment for Legionnaire's. Is that something you could provide him?
Whether it's for Legionnaire's, I will go and get him one. I'll get you one, Paul. A nicely evidenced one.
See how much nicer that was than calling him a fuckwit?
Who are you speaking to?
Who do you think? You, obviously. Mr. Colour Commentary, moaning about everyone else's colour commentary while you yak over the top of him about how dumb he is.
That wasn't a color commentary. That was a statement of fact and was highly demonstrated for the last 30 minutes. Thank you.
It's an interesting topic. I've tried to chat it with Owen a number of times, and it got, as you see. I'm still struggling to see what this approach is, other than destruction, which seems.
No, stop. To answer that, straight away. See, I'm good. I'm Good job on paying attention. To answer that, he's gonna potentially step over the lines of YouTube niceries, isn't he? To answer that, Adam. Maybe I should round out and let this conversation continue off air, because I know how close to the bone we're going to get very quickly based on that question.
Well, it's not like is it suggesting alternate methodology, okay, for disease? And that's appears to be its purpose to criticize germ theory, yeah. But I don't hear anything other than everything's all in us, and it's our emotional state that causes the manifestation of disease.
I didn't hear Paul claim that.
No, I'm saying from what I've looked into it. I'm not trying to thrust that on Paul. I'm saying from when I've looked into it, Paul, that's kind of the alternative hypothesis medically, that it's the internal well-being, emotional state, whatever, chakra alignment, whatever, that disbalances our organism where all these things live, and it allows them to predominate, whether that's stomach ulcer, a chest infection, a mild case of diarrhea. That none of this is a communicable cause. It's not transferred from one person or animal to person. This is all internal of the individual.
Well, I'll from their point of view, although I don't follow German medicine, they do feel that the psychological impact you can have on yourself is slightly more important than the other two, being poisoning and malnutrition. But they don't claim it's the only reason for illness, I don't think. It's just like you can make yourself extremely sick with worry, and they focus on that.
That might be true. However, can you appreciate that a couple of people who have a history in medicine, so Adam, for example, is a pharmacist practicing, right? Can you appreciate his frustration when there is established cause and effect? As he understands it, he hasn't actually presented that yet, but we're going to work on the premise that he will and can present cause and effect reasoning. So if someone says the introduction of this organism will cause this disease, and they demonstrate it by varying it, manipulating it, and causing the effect, if at that point someone comes along and by generalization decries it because of a misappropriation of, again, I'm going to try not to skirt the lines of YouTube censorship here, by way of an assertion that has a benefit for a certain group of individuals, but that particular claim has no scientific validity to it, and is, like with all the things we cover in heliocentrism, stealing valor where there is, in this case, for germ theory, validation through science. That would be frustrating to somebody who appreciates that, even if, as the case may be, Adam can't provide that scientific validity at a pinch, at a moment's notice. Can you see, just my question to Paul, is how that might be frustrating, to the point where I'm going to thank you for coming at it from the position, and don't take this the wrong way, of ignorance, so that it can be challenged. But do you appreciate how that would be frustrating to QE? I'm just trying to justify him being rude to you, actually.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And I get this sort of reaction all the time from people, including flat earthers, because it's not something they've ever looked into case by case. And if you do, it's a house of cards, in my opinion.
In some aspects.
last thing- Can I
On a
ask-
case-by-case basis, depending on what you're specifically referencing by paper.
Well, I mean, the whole idea of the germ theory is based on supposed evidence.
So where I say, hold on, so where I say by specific case-by-case basis per paper, you say no by generalization. No.
But each piece needs to be shown to be proven.
Yeah, that's what I said. But you said no, but generally with germ theory, you said. So you're giving it a generalization that is leaving a bitter taste in a couple of the panel members' mouth.
It seems like it has a lot of support, but when you dig into it, I haven't seen it, and I don't think it exists.
Okay.
On screen now.
Can I add something?
We're getting
to the
somewhere. On screen, I heard.
conversation?
Whoever that is interrupting. No, we're getting somewhere. Adam, yes, go ahead.
I don't know why I pulled Legionnaire's disease out, but that's what I've gone to. It's quite a good example, I suppose. Where do I start? Probably a little summary. Where does it come from? Legionella bacteria are widespread in natural water systems, so they exist all the time. They're in the water supplies. However, the conditions are really right for people to catch these diseases from other sources. Outbreaks of the illness occur from exposure to Legionella growing on. If you hear about it, it's often in poor. There was a big thing in Turkish holidays poorly maintained, and there was all Legionella building up in the water supply, and people got Legionnaire's disease. And you get it by inhaling basically the bacteria in the water droplets, and you inhale it, and it gives you like a pneumonia. When that bacteria gets into your lungs, it grows, as I've described, with just a simple chest infection. It's much harder to get rid of. It's a very tough little bastard, Legionella, because it survives in just water. It's tough and long lasting. If you get it in, it's very difficult and can cause all sorts of problems and diseases. Is that sufficient?
I think we need it more broken down in the simplistic way we describe it, with cause and effect reasoning and variation of the legion. What did you call it? The actual pathogen, or however it's described?
And the Legionella.
Legionella. Showing the variation of Legionella to cause the lung infection.
So that's perfectly retrievable. Pictures, growth, deterioration of people with Legionella's, final autopsy reports. Yeah, you could have all that. That help? From a fit, healthy person that went on a holiday to Turkey, there's the cause. There's Legionella in the thing. So real life, that can then be replicated lab-wise.
But has it ever been formulated into an official hypothesis with a variation of the cause being Legionella as the independent variable?
Well, yeah. You will have a lab where this is confirmed. So there'll be a lab experiment, and this is like within people. This is what I came across, a government document, just to outline how it's transferred, the statements, so you know. Yeah, this is why we have to keep our pipes clean, because of this particular one. If not, there's a risk of that. Like I said, with poorly maintained water systems, it gets warmer and the build-up, and those conditions, like your chest, wet and moist and warm, become favourable to this thing that's there. If this then transfers to you, you get that in your lungs, and it grows just like it's grown in the water pipes.
Sounds like Montezuma's revenge from when Californians would go to Mexico and drink the water.
This ain't giving you the shits. This is killing you. If you know, it's potentially fatal. So.
Mumbling right as I want to round out.
So this isn't giving you shits. It's potentially fatal, isn't it?
Yeah, but let me
example, hopefully, of transfer from one place of a bacterium into a human, in this case, and it then multiplying the bacterium and causing the disease. Hopefully that's a sufficient example.
Before you round out, Nathan, there was I didn't expect the conversation to go where it did just prior to this. That was when Paul brought up the fact when people have effects on themselves. And, you know, so for example, if you're a very negative person and you stress out about things, you're going to create from worry a lot of problems for yourself. If you're a very positive, happy person, you don't let those things affect you as much. And so the chemicals that release in your body don't release, but it does for the negative person in a bad way. So I didn't expect Paul to go there, but that's a very interesting thing, that we, with an attitude, can cause our own death, even our own harm, our own stress by our outlook and our thoughts.
Isn't that why Jesus says don't worry about certain things? That you can't gain an inch to your stature and worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, where you're going to live?
Marley said it.
Don't worry. Be happy.
But never mind.
No? With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.